Check. All right. So first things first, if you've got Photoshop going, I want you to quit it for me really quickly. And then I want to go to, see if I can get one other thing to change in here really quickly for me. Ooh, much better. Yeah. Okay. If you can go to your session 1 folder, the assignment folders that I gave you at the very beginning of the class, our very first class. Okay. Inside our class 1 files and student 01 folders, there is the folder for software installers. If you can open that up, and inside there is this Piximperfect Player 1.0.2 with Photoshop Quit. I just need you to double click on this to launch it. It will open up the Creative Cloud and it should say compatible app required. I've already got mine installed, so hopefully yours is not going to give you that error warning. I'm going to start Photoshop and see if I can't get rid of that plugin.
Should we install it locally?
You should install it. Yeah, that's what I was going to say. You're going to get an option to do it either from the cloud or to do it locally. Please do it locally. And then when you do that, you should be able to go into Photoshop and you should see it up in your right-hand corner. I mean, left-hand corner.
This is in week 3.
No, week 1. Inside inside your week number 1, the software installer folder, inside of that, it's this Piximperfect Player 1.0.2.ccx. And if you do that, it should pop open and it should look something like this. You should have it up. Does everybody have this thing? Did it work for everyone? Did it not? Who is it not working for?
Since I don't have the correct compatible app at this point.
Then go ahead and open up Photoshop and see. You may have actually already installed it because that's the error I just got, and I think it's because it's already installed error. So try to launch it here, let's just see what happens. So no, I've done this before. Say okay to that, and then we're going to look for it here in your manage plugin. So search. I'm going to search the plugins. Yes, but it takes some perfect PIX. It's this one right here. And get. We'll figure this out during the break.
Yeah.
Okay. Did everybody else get this thing open? Okay. So once you have it open, I think you should park it myself. So to park it, you just grab the tab and slide it over. I'm going to say put it in the same palette that Properties is in. So we've got Properties, Libraries. I've got a Gemini AI in mine as well. You don't have that yet. You will get it. But again, hover the tab over the palette, and when the entire palette has a blue surround it, it's ready to actually drop and let go. And so now it's actually in there. to use this thing, you can keep it here or you can pull it out. If you decide you want it bigger, you can say, or if you're working on a separate monitor, you can simply pull it out. Unlike, just the opposite of what we just did, you can then resize it. You can make it really big. To actually get to any of the videos that you want to get to, you would go to, for instance, we can try one right now. I need everybody to go to a browser really quick. We're going to try to get to my YouTube channel. So if you go to YouTube and you do a search in YouTube for Verser, somewhere down in the bottom, halfway down, I can't believe there's that many ahead of me. There is a thing that says Verser Engelhard, and go ahead and click on that. And this is where you'll actually go to, and this is where all of the videos are. Now, I keep sending you links to make it easier. You can also, if there's a lot of other stuff on here, there shouldn't be a lot of other stuff on here, but if there is, you can just click on the video tab as well, and this should give you the videos. And again, if you go through all of these, there's a lot of these that have now been mixed up, so we would want to do a sort of this. Again, when I actually give you guys the links to go to this stuff, this is not what I see right here. I get a sort where I'm able to sort this from newest to oldest, because there's some videos in here that are actually go back for quite some time. So at any rate, that's not going to matter right now. We can figure that part out. But if you click on one of the videos, like the one that's at the top of my list is this Retouching Spring 2602. That is you guys, by the way. I have 2 retouching classes. You guys are 02, which makes you better than the 01 people. Just saying. So anyway, I have been recording these, even though it's the same lecture every week, for both of you, independent of each other, to try to help you guys navigate this. But I got to be honest with you, this is getting really confusing for me, and I'm worried this is also going to get really confusing for you, that you're going to get here and go, am I 01, 02, and then it's like session 1, so I'm 02, 01, session 1, spring. It's just, I'm strongly considering just doing one recording each week and having it be simplified that way. But for right now, I'm not doing that right now. So at any rate, if you click on one of these videos, it'll open up, and the thing you want to copy is just the link, the URL that's up here at the very top. You just click across this and copy it, and then you go back into the Piximperfect player, click on this, and just do a paste, and then hit the little arrow to go forward. And you will see then the video that I have comes up in here, and you can play it in here. You can continue to resize this. You can make it bigger, smaller, whatever. You'll never lose it. And if it's in a good place, leave it in a good place. But this way, you're actually able to, you don't have to keep going back and forth from the video to the Photoshop workspace and then back and forth and all that kind of stuff. So that's how I would do it, and that's what it's for. So again, I'm going to park mine over here, because when you're not using it, you don't want it to take up a valuable workspace. Okay. Is this working for everyone? Hey, Johnny, can you show me a second, please? Yes. Is this not working for anyone? Yes. Did you double click on it to load it? Have you run it? Okay. Okay, that's fine. I'm going to come over here to plugins and hit browse plugins. And you don't have it in here either, so I'm going to deal with you, both of you guys, at the break. But it worked for everyone else, right? Okay, good. Okay, so in terms of actually submitting homework, that's the next thing that I want to do. So if we can go through that process really quickly, I need everyone to connect to the server. So there's a couple of people here who were not here in our first class and they don't know how to do that right now. We will deal with that also during the break. But for the rest of you, again, for the Macintosh people, you simply want to go to your Go menu, down to Connect to Server. And then you should have saved this as a favorite, the whole long thing we typed in. If you didn't, then we'll also deal with you guys. We don't even have to deal with it. Let me show you really quickly before I do this. if we go back, I'm going to cancel here really quickly just for 1 second. If we go back to our session number 1, so again, the whole session files that you're doing, so student files week 01, in the inside of that, there are 2 PDFs. One is connect to class projects via Macintosh. That's what the Macintosh people need to do. The other is connect to projects via Windows. That's what the Windows people need to do. Again, they're 2 different things, but they're connecting to the same server. So I just want to go through all of this really quickly to show the people who were here and have already made this connection how to get it to work. So again, up to the Go menu for the Mac people, down to Connect Server. For the Windows people, really quickly, again, this is the steps that you go through. You should have been able to make an alias for this somewhere. So, but if you haven't, then again, you right-click on your Start menu in the lower left-hand part of your screen, click on Run, then in the Run dialog box, it should appear, and then you need to type this following thing using quotes. So the quotes don't exist here. So it would be opening quotes, // column.edu / academics, all lowercase, no spaces, / photo in all caps, and then close quotes. Again, you can see down here in this little illustration, there's quotes on both sides, and then hit OK. And when you do that, it should take you to enter your password, your username and password. It is your Columbia College username and password. It's what you use to connect to all the computers here on campus. It's what you use to connect to the Wi-Fi here on campus. So it's all of those things. And if you don't know what they are, we're going to have to find that out, because I can't. There's no way I know what yours are. So at any rate, so for everyone else, again, the Mac people, up to the Go menu, down to Connect to Server, then click on, if it's not populated up at the top, you want to just click on the favorite that you saved on here and then hit Connect. And it should go through the connection process. A window should pop up. It should be actually giving you the photography server. In the photography server, there is class projects. If you click on class projects, it'll open up to the next screen, Engelhard, again, my last name, where you want to actually do this. And then for you guys, what you're going to do, hang on 1 second, I'm hoping that this works today. Yeah, hopefully. So for you guys, again, there's 2 drop boxes. There's a drop box for Retouching 01, that's the Tuesday people, and then you guys are Dropbox Retouching 02. This is where you're just going to throw your homework, just like Will has already done. And you want to name your homework. You can put all of your homework into one folder and just name it last name _ first name _ and then the assignment number. You don't actually have to put the word assignment in there, but no harm, no foul. It doesn't matter. I'll know that the _ 2.1 means it's, and even though it's 2.1, it's all the ones from week 2. So you could just put in week number 2, but you need to attach. You need to have it in a folder that actually has your name on it, so that I know that it's you, that it's your assignment. Because again, I'm not getting any of this through Canvas, so Canvas typically will tag that with your name. That doesn't happen here, so you got to put your own name in there. And then you can see Dawn's is actually beginning to load right now, and that's exactly the way I want this. So before the end of the class today, I need everyone to actually do this part. Again, for the people who cannot connect to this server right now, we will troubleshoot that at the break, or one of our breaks anyway. Okay, are there questions about this? We good? Okay. Just as something to know right here, when, no, this is actually resized because I've got my Piximperfect player is larger. I'm actually going to temporarily get rid of my Gemini one. And then if you go back up to your window and reset your workspace, it'll actually shrink it up a little bit, which is what I'm looking for here. Okay, so with all of that said and done, we're actually going to do some stuff today. So if we click on the, what I want you to do now is go to your session 3 folder for this class. And inside session 3 folder, you should have, there's 2 files that I want you to open up. There is, one of them is going to be this gradients02 file, if you could open that up, and then also the Bruce Fraser Castle Composite.psd. There's 2 files in there. You can select them both at the same time and open them both, or you can open one and then open another one right after it. I'm just going to open both of mine at the same time. And does everybody have these 2 files open? Yep. Yes, no, sure. Okay. What I want to do is I'm actually going to copy the Bruce Fraser, this file that we've got going on right here. I want to copy it on top of the gradient one. So again, the easiest way to do it is to have both of those open. If you still have tab behavior going on and you want to do it the way I'm doing it right here, simply tear your tabs off. If you grab your tab for one of these images and pull it down in the space, you'll tear it off, you'll just see the image, and then you can do the same thing for the other one. If you know how to copy and paste, we're not copying and pastes, we're doing a drag and drop between these two. You can do a drag and drop if you know how to do that. I'm just telling you right now, this is going to get increasingly confusing as we get deeper into compositing, and you maybe have 3, 4, 5, 6 files open and you're trying to drag and drop between all of those. You've got to then memorize what the tabs are, and that just is a nightmare for me, so I don't do that stuff. So anyway, what I want to do is I want to copy just the castle, the bottom layer right here. So we want to do the background layer. I'm going to click on the background layer and I'm going to drag it on top of the gradient because I can see them both. But before you let go, you want to hold down the Shift key, because when you do that, it will actually center the image that you just brought in here so that it's actually, we will all be seeing the same thing. If you don't do that, you actually can run the possibility, you can actually bring it into this file and have it set so far off that you actually see part of the gradient underneath, and it will look like this. Sorry. It's not going to look like that. That's okay. And then you can close up the castle file. It's everything I wanted to get out of here I've got. If you double click on the hand now, it'll get as big as it can get, given the space that you've got. So this is where we're going to start. So does everybody have these 2 files, one on top of the other? Does anybody not? Because you're not going to be able to do anything for the rest of the class if you don't have this set up like this. I can wait.
This is week 2.
Week 3. It centers it automatically, yes.
Mine isn't either. It keeps like making it really small. Yeah, it's cropping. Like I want the window to be this size. And then this.
Yeah, but that's exactly right, because this is the image that has the gradient in it. You're going to go back to this image and close it. You're going to close that. And then, I don't know what that is. That's okay.
For something else.
And now with this open like this, if you simply double click on the hand right here, it'll get as big as it can get, right? And then you can probably close the plugin warning as well. Nikhil, you're still having issue?
It's cropping.
Oh, it does crop down.
Oh, okay.
We're taking a really big image and putting it on a little big file, right? Yeah, that's exactly what it should look like. Yeah, so again, this is the file that you want. This one behind it you can throw away. Not throw away, close. And then this one just, again, it's correct. Just double click on the hand really fast. And there you go. You're in the same place. Okay. So, Nikayla, can you get Davis caught up really quickly on where it's just the 2 files that she needs to get open? All right. So, we're going to get into masking today and what this whole thing is about. So, what I want to do with these 2 images open, First off, is just realize that you've got two layers in here. Both of them have eyeballs that are right next to it. If you turn off the eyeball of the castle, you see the gradient that's underneath it. If you turn it back on, then you don't. You just see the castle. If you turn off the gradient underneath it, you don't see any change in here because the castle is covering all of it. If you turn off both of the eyeballs, you have just this blank screen that looks like a checkerboard on it. The checkerboard is there to indicate transparency. So there is no content that's visible right now. So we are looking, it's just completely transparent. Just realize that that's what, whenever you see the checkerboard, that's what it's actually indicating to us. So I'm going to turn them both back on. When you do turn stuff back on, you can actually do a slide down so you can see. I can click on the top one and just slide down, still holding down my mouse key, and it'll turn them both on. So it's just quick ways to sort of navigate in the layers menu. But we're going to come over to the layers menu and we are going to add a layer mask to this. So there's a million ways of doing this. Some people learn by going up to the layer menu and coming down to layer mask. That's not what I want you to do. For me, again, all of the icons that we need to work in the layers palette are sitting at the very bottom of the layers palette. So I know we've gone over this before, but I want to go over it just one more time really quickly. If you start at the icons that are on the far right-hand side, that's the garbage. That's where you throw things away. So for instance, you can tell I've got this top layer selected because it's highlighted. You see, in my case, it's this sort of like light shade of blue. Historically, this has been the color that they had for layers, but then over the last like 5 years, they changed it to just a different color of gray, and everybody rioted, and they finally have changed it back. It's much easier to tell now what layer you do have selected, or multiple layers if you have them selected that'll be this color. You'll also know what part of your image is actually selected because there's a white border that goes around it. You'll see what I mean as soon as we add a layer mask to this. So at any rate, if you want to throw something away, you highlight it and then you just click on the garbage can and it'll say, do you want to delete this thing? And you would say yes, and then hit, in our case, because we want to bring it back, Command Z will bring it back. Command Z is undo. You can also click on this and drag it down to the garbage can, and that way you don't get the warning, and also Command Z it to bring it back. So that's basically how you throw things away from the layers palette. To add things, if you go to the next icon over, it's the square with a little plus inside of it. If you click on that, you'll see it actually adds a layer on the very up above everything on the very top. Actually, this is an interesting thing to say. It's not always on the very top. If you hit Command Z and undo that and click on the background layer and then add a layer, it'll add it between the two. So the add always goes right above whatever the active layer is. So you need to realize this part because sometimes you'll start adding layers and you think you know where you want to add them and it adds them somewhere completely different. It's because you've got something else selected that is completely different. While we're on that subject, if you hit the V key really quickly, you will get the Move tool. And when you get the Move tool, I need everyone to look up here at the very top. And in the very top, there's so again, anytime you select a tool, the options bar at the very top reflects the options for that tool. So these are the options for the Move tool are up here. The thing you need to be careful about is this auto select button right here. If you have the auto select turned on, what happens is that wherever you are on an image that has got content, it will actually, and if you're hovering over it and click on that content, it will select that layer for you. So this can actually be an aid to you if you've got a really deep layer stack, you've got hundreds of layers, and you've got a beach ball someplace, and you don't know what layer the beach ball was. If you then turn this on and click on the beach ball, it will actually select the layer for you. However, if you leave this on, what'll happen is when you start to use the Move tool, all of a sudden it'll start changing your layers like wild because anytime you click on anything where there is no a layer where there is no image content, it will pick the layer that's underneath it and you will get completely confused. So I want to make you aware of this because I'm telling you right now, you want to turn this thing off unless you run into that situation where it's like, okay, I cannot find the layer I'm trying to find. Then turn it on and click on whatever the object is you want to find and it will find the layer for you. But if you leave this thing turned on, you're looking for a world of hurt. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure that was, yes?
How do I open up the Bruce Fraser picture as a layer?
You just double click on it to launch it. So do you have it open in Photoshop as a separate image?
Well, it opens it in my 2026, not just my 2020.
so the easiest, because that'll happen to me too, because I have multiple versions as well. Just grab which down here. One of these is 2025 and the other is 26. This is that one you can quit. So this one you're just going to grab the Bruce Fraser file and drag it on top of that icon and let go, and it'll open up. And now you've got both open. So you're going to click on this one to make it active, and you're going to grab that layer and drag it on top of this, but undo, Command C to undo. Do that again, but before you let go, hold down the Shift key and it'll bring it in center. And then hold down the Shift key and there you go. And close the app. You're done. Yeah.
Wait, how did you get the
How did I do what?
how did you get this one's on
Yeah, so what we're doing is that we're doing this stuff right here. So you're going to click on this layer, and you're going to drag that layer on top of the gradient, and hold down, hit Command Z to undo that. And you're going to do it again. Click on this image again. Click on that layer again. Drag it on top, but before you let go, hold on the Shift key. No. You're going to hold down the Shift key and then let go of your mouse. Keep it down, yep, let go, and it'll center it for you. You can close this thing up now. You can close that one also. Go ahead and say, yeah, you can get rid of it. Don't worry. Okay, we're just trying to get rid of this thing. Close it up again. And this time say, no, don't change anything. Say no, just get rid of it. And then on this one, you're going to come over to your hand over here and double click really fast. And there you go. Okay. So I'm going to get rid of the transparent layer that I just added. I just wanted to make sure everybody realized when you add a layer, it's only going to put it on top of whatever active layer you've got going. So if you expect it to be on the very top, you need to select the very top. But we don't need this layer right now, so I'm going to just hit the delete key to get rid of it. That's another way to actually get rid of these. I'm going to go back to my layers palette, to the layer number one, the one that's on the very top, the one that is the castle. And we're going to do the rest of the icons down at the bottom. So the next one over to the left is one that looks like a file folder. That one's there to actually help give you structure for your layers palette. So a lot of people, it doesn't change anything. It's just a place to organize stuff. So again, I've got my top layer selected. If you click on this, it'll actually add what's called group number one. So what the little folder is it's a way to build collections of layers into something. So let's say you would do all of your retouching would go into a group called retouching, and then all of your tonal grade or your color grading could go into another group that would be the color grading part, and then another one could actually be, you know, you could have, if you're compositing like bodies into backgrounds, one would be your whole background set and the other would be your whole body set. So it's just a way to give you order for your layers palette. Anyway, to use this thing, if you simply click on that and do one like we just did, you then can take layers and put them into the group, and you can also take them out. To put a layer into the group, I'm going to grab this layer number one, and I'm just going to drag it up on top of the group, and you'll see, it gets kind of hard to see, but there is a little blue line going around the group, and if you let go, this is now inside the group. You can tell it's inside of the group because it's been pushed over to the right, and if you click on the little triangle that's right next to the word that says group one, it will collapse, and so that layer is still inside the group one. It doesn't change anything about the way your image looks. Again, this is strictly an organizational thing. If you double click on the word that says group, you can actually call this castle or whatever. You know, I'm just showing you how this goes. To get it out of the group, the easiest way to do it, if you click this group open, if you start to drag down underneath, it gets a little trickier. I typically drag up to the top, and you'll see I've got now a solid blue line up above the top and let go. This is now outside of the group, and you can click on the group and delete it. You can throw it away just to get us back where we were. Sorry, that was still my layer was selected. Click on the group and hit delete for that one and to get rid of that. So the next one over is the one we've been looking for. So You want to make sure that you've got your castle layer selected, so the layer number 1. And the next one over is, actually, take that back. The next one's over is the circle with the, that's half black and half white. If you click on that, you get a flyout menu. This is where all your adjustment layers are. The reason we got rid of the adjustments panel is because all of these exist here. Everything that you had in the adjustment panel is here. And every time they add something, they add it here. So again, this is all about maximizing space for you to not have to search for things, that you have most of what you need is visible to you right off the bat. The next one over is the add layer mask group. We're going to do that in a second, but I just want to show, to tell everybody what the last two are. The last one, not the last one, but the next one over there, the one that looks like an F with an X next to it, that's actually styles for your layers themselves. You can actually use all sorts of ways to blend your layers in with your image. To see what that looks like, if you come over to this layer number 1, all the way to the right side, you don't want to click on the thumbnail, you don't want to click on the name. You do need the whole layer active, but if you come all the way over to the far right-hand side and double-click, it opens up this layer style dialog box. This is a really deep dialog box. We're not going into this stuff right now, but that's what that FX key is all about. So we're going to cancel out of this for the time being. We'll get back to it later in the semester. And then finally, the last one is a chain link. And what the chain link does is it allows you to link multiple layers together so that if you move one, it moves them all. If you transform one, it transforms them all. It's just a way to actually connect stuff. We do not need any of that stuff right now. So, but what we do need on here is a layer mask. So it's the one that's sort of in the middle. It's the white square with the black circle in the middle. If you click on that, it'll actually add a white layer mask to this layer. So I need everybody to make sure that they have got that. Are we good on this part? Okay, so here's the thing about layer masking. What this does is it controls what you see and what you do not see. So the adage that everyone uses for this is that white reveals, black conceals. Again, white reveals, black conceals. So right now I have a white layer mask on this thing. You can also tell, again, this is something you really need to start paying attention to. You really need to keep your focus on this. I do have layer number 1 is selected, but look at where the white border is. The white border is actually around the layer mask. That means that anything that I do now will happen to the layer mask. If the white border is around the pixel content, so click on the thumbnail for the castle itself, you'll see that the white border goes around this guy now. It's around the pixel content, and now whatever I do will happen to the pixel content, not to the mask. So for instance, if we go back and click on the layer mask, so bring it back over, click on the middle of it so that it puts the white border around it, we are going to invert this mask. There's several ways of doing it. The keyboard The keyboard shortcut for this is Command I, stands for invert. And you can see when you do that, the layer mask just turned black. It was white, but I inverted it. It is now black. It is completely hiding the castle, and what I see is the layer that is underneath it. If I hit Command I again, or no, let me even show you a different way. There's also in your properties layer, when you actually have the mask highlighted, the border around it, your properties channel actually deals with the mask. So you'll see there is an invert button right here. You can click on this and it will go back to white. And again, now I see the mask, I see the castle. I don't see the gradient that's underneath it. However, if you click on the castle and do Command I, you invert the castle. It doesn't have anything to do with the mask. I'm not hiding anything. I've simply inverted. Everything that was light in my castle image has now been made dark. Everything that was in the reds has been made cyanic. Everything that was in the greens has been made magenta. I mean, it's the inverse of it all. You can hit Command I to go back to it. Then click back on your castle again. And in the castle part, we actually want to then do some work on this. So so make sure that you've got the layer mask is selected. Hit the B key, just no modifier at all, just the B key. It'll give you the brush. Whenever you change tools, your eyes need to go up to this options bar up at the very top. You can see when I was on the V key, you don't need to do this, but I'm gonna hit the V key for the move tool. I've got auto select, layer, blah, 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 blah. But when I hit the B key, I actually have brush size. I've got blending modes for my brush. I've got opacity and flow in here. If you don't know the difference in opacity and flow right now, don't worry about that. We will get to that part as well. So the thing that when you do hit this brush though that I want you to actually check, we need to go over brushes really quickly, just the basics, not the deep heavy stuff. But if you look up at the very top, there's a little house, you can ignore that. There's a little brush with a drop-down menu. This is for preset brushes that you build. We don't need to worry about that right now. For the next one down, this is where you actually control your brush. And if you click on this drop-down, you will get a drop-down window, and in that drop-down window, it will actually allow you to change the size of your brush and the hardness of your brush. So the size is pretty obvious. It's how big or small your brush is. I do not use this. I actually do it while I've got my brush out on my image, because then it makes sense to me. It's like, oh, how big or small do I need that brush? So we'll talk about how to change the size of your brush on your image. But what I do come for here all the time is to change the hardness. Now, there are a million ways of doing this, changing these. There is a heads-up display that uses a keyboard series of shortcuts that allows you to change the size and the hardness. I don't use any of that stuff. Again, I try to keep this as simple as I possibly can. I'm not trying to, I don't dumb this down for you all. I'm telling you exactly the way I work with it. A hardness of 0 is a very soft brush. That means that the center of your brush, when you paint with it, is going to be very solid, but as you start to move towards the edge of the brush starts to fade. The paint that it lays down starts to fade, and when you get to the very edge of your brush, it fades off to 0. If you have a completely hard brush, by dragging this up to 100%, 100% is as hard a brush as you can get. Then when you actually paint with it, the density of your brush is the same from the center of the brush all the way to the edges. It's completely hard. You lay down, again, if you're painting with black ink, the entire thing would be black. That's what we're gonna do right now. So I am going to make my brush completely hard. However, we are going to look at our Wacom tablets today, and I want to make sure that you understand that part of it as well. So in the drop-down, in the thing that opens up, when you open this whole thing up, you should have a series of folders in here that are different brushes. Does everybody have those? Or at least some of those? Okay, the one that I want you to have right now is this one called Legacy Brushes, and you probably do not have this by default. So to get them, you go up to the little gear that is in the very top right-hand side, and you click on that little gear, and when you do that, you can come down and say Legacy Brushes, and it will add this folder right here that is Legacy Brushes. All of these others are really special stuff. So the general brushes isn't too bad, but all this other stuff is special stuff. You also should know that the little icons that are at the top are simply tracking the brushes that you use. So every time you do a new brush or a different brush and use it, it'll pop up here, and then the whole set goes over. So it remembers the last 6 brushes that you had. The new one always starts on the left, and then it'll move over to the right. So I don't know anybody who uses this thing up at the very top. It's actually a waste of time. You used to be able to put your legacy brushes up there and pick from them. Photoshop again improved it by fucking it up. So, but at any rate, so does everybody have a folder now that says Legacy Brushes? Okay, I want you to click that to open it up. These are the places to go when you're in real trouble. So that's why it was always better when they were up at the very top. I wish they would give us, there may be an option that allows you to put this up at the very top, but I don't know what it is, if there is one. But I want to go through what these are really quickly. So we're going to start the one at the very top. If you click on the one at the very top, it will actually give you, it doesn't change the size of your brush, it just makes the hardness completely at 0. It's a very soft round brush, that's all it is. There's nothing that changes this. So if you go to the next one underneath it and click on it, you'll actually see that the hardness just got zipped over to 100, so this is a completely hard brush, and that's all. If you go to the next one down, the next one down is a soft round brush. However, it's the same one, it's the same edge as the one that's on top, but this one down here, it actually changes the size of your brush depending on how much pressure you use on your Wacom tablet. So this actually might be a good time to pause and go look at the settings of our Wacom tablet. So yes? So did they get added to the groups that are underneath this?
Yeah, I have like some brushes, like 2 folders for it.
Oh, so you already had one, they were already loaded. They're the same. Just click on one folder to open it.
But they won't open. You feel like the other one looks like a folder
Oh yeah, you've got brushes that are nested inside of brushes, so it's not like you did A4 with this again. Don't worry about this. You don't really need to worry about this part because I'm going to tell you not to use any of it. Okay, so let's do this. Did everybody have a chance to get a Wacom tablet? I know some people are kind of coming a little bit late to this game and may not have one yet, but that's okay. All you need to do is follow along on the video here. Again, for the most part, we're just going to use the defaults on a Wacom tablet, but I want to make sure everybody knows how to work these things. So I'm going to pause on the Photoshop stuff where we are right now because I need to explain what pressure does and all of this kind of stuff. So I have a Wacom tablet that looks like this. Again, if you don't have one, you need to check one out from the Media Center. If you take a look at the assignment that's in Canvas, it'll tell you where to go, who to email first and say you need to pick up. They have, the Media Center has Wacom tablets that we can check out for the entire semester for this class. So you do not need to buy one of these things, but you do need to check one out and you need to plan on bringing it to class for the rest of the semester. So for those of you who have one, I have a wireless one right here. I have one that's a Bluetooth version of this. So I don't have a wire on mine, but if you do have the wired version, you need to plug it in now. So plug one end into your Wacom tablet and the other end into your computer. And I've got 3 adapters, but that's it. So who needs an adapter? Anyone else? Well, it's like my computer has forgotten everything. It doesn't know who it is. No, it's lost my Bluetooth connection. It's lost my.
Maybe it's going through an identity.
You think? Oh, okay. So, has everybody got theirs connected? All right. So, in a Wacom tablet, the first thing we're start with is actually the stylus itself. So you need to whip out this little stylus. It's supposed to look like a pencil. You'll see that there's a pointy end on one side and there is a stubby end on the other side. And it actually works this way. If you use the pointy end on your tablet, it'll actually move your cursor around. If you're using a brush, it'll actually lay down, like for instance, if we're going to start to paint with black on this image, it'll start to lay down that black ink on this image. If you flip it over on top, flip it around 180, the other side, which you would typically think of as an eraser on a pencil, is exactly how these things are set up by default. This will actually then change to the eraser, and it will actually remove the black ink that you just put down on your image. So that part is how it's set up initially. We can talk about how to change this part up. So anyway, I just want to make sure everybody understands that part. You have to have installed the driver software that was in our install folder from our week number 1. If you didn't, this isn't going to work, but that's okay. We can troubleshoot that. It's during one of the breaks during this class, and we will get you up to speed. This is the things as far as installing software. There's not stuff that you're going to install later on. So we'll get all the kinks worked out this week or next week, and we'll be in good shape. So at any rate, for the Macintosh people, to actually change the behavior of your brush, you can change how this thing works. You need to come up to your Apple menu, and you need to come down to System Settings. If you have a very old Macintosh, this might say Preferences, but again, up to the window, Apple menu, down to System Settings, and click on it, and it'll open up. On the left-hand screen part, the column on the left-hand side, if you go all the way down to the bottom, you should see a Wacom Center and a Wacom tablet. Do not click on Wacom Center right now, or you will be in, Wacom will get their claws into you and try and sell you shit. Instead, just click on the Wacom tablet, and it should open up in your screen right next to it, and it should look something like this. It doesn't have to look exactly like this. Again, I have a wireless model, so I've got a battery in mind. If you've got the wired model, that battery thing doesn't exist. And it may look slightly different on other parts for other reasons. For the Windows people, you actually need to go to your control panels or control devices. I forget which one it's called. So if you don't know how to get there, go down to your search bar on the lower left-hand corner of Windows, click and do a search for, just type in control, and it'll give you, again, the panel that you're looking for is either control panels or control devices. It may have some other name, but it's control something. It's where all of the things that you can use to modify your system are, like this. So with this thing clicked and open, does everybody have this thing open, or a version of this? Again, it might yours might look slightly different, but yeah. Okay, so up at the very top, you'll have applications, and in my case right now, I've just got all, and that's really all that you need, unless, just you can realize that you can set your tablet up to work differently for different applications. Now, if you want to add an application, you click on the little plus button to the right. If you want to get rid of one, you click to the minus button to the right, but that's how you can actually add applications here. So if you want your tablet to work one way in Photoshop, but you want it to work a different way in Illustrator, you can actually add both of those applications to this, and then set your tablet to work one way for the one and the other way for the other. You just click on the tablet that you want to set up, on the application that you want to set up, and you do it that way. For me, I think that only confuses people. Again, you guys, if you're just starting with a graphics tablet, do not do that. You want to learn the behavior of this and get comfortable with this before you start really making it a challenge to work with. So underneath that, you'll see there's a series of tabs that run along the bottom here. Now, depending on the tablet that you have, I think all of the ones that we have will have tablet, next to it pen, next to it mapping, and next to it on-screen controls. There are Wacom tablets that also have a dedicated mouse for the tablet. It's not the mouse for your computer. It works like the one on your computer, but it's dedicated to work on this tablet. In that case, you'll have another mouse tab as well. But in our case, we don't have that, or at least I don't have that. But you'll get how this whole thing works just by going through this part right here. So underneath that, you have the express keys. Again, there are certain Wacom tablets that don't have express keys, but what they're talking about are these really big buttons that sit up at the very top of your tablet. You can set these things. There's a set of defaults that these actions that will happen if you click on one of these buttons, and you can see where they're defined right here. So on the very top, the way mine's set up anyway, the top left-hand button on mine, so you can see it's pointing to this little one right here, is set up to be the modifier key. So if you click on it, it is like holding down the command key or the control key on Windows. So, but you can change that behavior. If you click on this drop-down menu, you can see you can actually change this to be a right click if you want it to be that. You can change it to be a double click if you want that. You can actually change it to be a keystroke. You can get it to be, it can become your undo key. It can be your redo key. You can set it to do all of this stuff. Again, my suggestion to you is do not mess with this too much. I do not use the modifier keys at all. There's no reason. Command Z works just as well. Why would I make another key that I need to have my tablet connected to actually get an undo? So anyway, the one that's underneath it now is the next modifier key over, and it's set up the same way. So actually all of these are set up the same way. All they are set up to do is be your command or control key. So you can map these out to do anything that you want. That's up to you. For me, I don't use these things. So just so that you know. So that's the tablet setup. If you go to the pen setup, the next tab up at the very top, right under applications, and this is where you can begin to get a sense of what's going on with the tablet. So with this one open, if you take, again, make sure, a lot of times when people are first starting to work with tablets, they make a mistake. They don't really look at what end of the stylus that they're putting down. And there's a very, very real difference between using the pointy end and the blunt end. The pointy end is positive, it lays down ink. The stubby end by default erases. So anyway, make sure that you've got the pointy end down. And if you come down, you should see, if you like move around, you should see that your cursor is actually moving. I'm just hovering over my tablet, but you can actually put your cursor, your stylus actually down onto the tablet, and you'll see there is a current pressure thing that starts to go up. If you then simply put your stylus straight on the tablet and press hard, you will see how much pressure it actually takes to get that pressure to go all the way over to maximum. And it's not a ton of pressure, but it's maybe something that takes a little bit more than you would feel comfortable with. So what pressure will allow you to do is work at, you can set up your computer to do different things. So the reason we are going through this right now is that in those legacy brushes that we are looking at, in the Wacom tablet, in the brush settings setup, you can actually use the pressure of your brush to control the size of the brush. You can also set it up for the pressure of your brush to control the opacity of your brush. And finally, you can set it up to control the flow of your brush. So there are all these different options that you can do. I suggest that you do not make any of those changes here. You simply do them in Photoshop. And to be honest with you, I don't think you should use any of the brushes that leverage this in Photoshop. I think if you want to change the opacity of a brush in Photoshop, you use the Photoshop opacity setting. You do not use brush pressure right now, because if you're not used to it, it will get really frustrating. You will expect a certain reaction to happen, and it will not. Something different will happen, and then you're just like, the fuck am I using this tablet? And promise you, if you don't learn this tablet, serious retouching is not in your future. So at any rate, you can change this, how much pressure it takes to get to the maximum. So if you crank your tip feel all the way down to soft, and then do a small little tap, you'll see it takes very little pressure to get it all the way to the maximum. If you want to go in the other direction, you can crank the tip feel all the way up to firm, and now it actually takes, you really got to smash down on this thing to get it all the way across. I would strongly suggest you leave it right in the middle where it is by its default until you get used to it. The double click distance, all of you know this. If you click, so let's say you've got a Photoshop file that's on your desktop, and you click on it one time, it selects the icon, but that's it. If you double click on it really fast, it will actually open up in whatever. So if it's a Word document, it'll open in Word. If it's a Photoshop document, it'll open up in Photoshop. There is a time measurement between what is considered a single click or a double click and then 2 single clicks. So for instance, if I do this, everybody look at me really quickly. I'm going to tap once, and that just selected my icon. And then I've waited all this time, and I'm going to tap again. It will just select the icon again. It will not open it. But if I double click really quickly, then it'll actually open the icon. You can control the timing between what is considered 2 single clicks or 1 double click. And the reason that matters is that as you start to work with a tablet, you're constantly down here, and you can get into the habit of slightly lifting your stylus up off the tablet and then dropping it back down. You don't want that to start opening shit up. You want that to simply be, okay, yeah, I'm putting down dots of color here or something like that. So you can use this control right here to actually change the amount of time that it takes to actually do a double click. So again, if you turn it off, everything is a double click. There is no such thing as a double click. If you go all the way up to large, then what that'll do is it'll be extremely quickly for something to actually open up. Again, I would strongly suggest that you leave this at its defaults, but if all of a sudden you get into this behavior and you're like, Jesus, every time I try to do something here, it's opening something, you just remember the fact that you can go in and change the time interval between what is considered 2 single clicks and what is considered a double click. Then finally in this group right here, you'll see if you look at your stylus down near the stylus tip, there are two switches that are on the barrel. There's a switch in the back and one in the front, or one that's closer to the point and one that's closer to the eraser end. The one that's closer to the point by default is set up to be a scroll wheel. So you can change that behavior if you want to. So again, you can come down, you can just click on this drop-down menu and say, well, no, I really want that to be a right click. That's how I usually set mine up. And then I'll change the behavior because it's right now the right click is the behavior that's in the back. And again, remember a right click will give you, if you right click on something, it gives you the drop-down menus. It'll give you anything that exists like that. So that's what this for. For Windows people, right clicks are standard. For Macintosh people, right click is something that's been borrowed from Windows, so that's why they call it a right click, because Windows mouse for Windows has two buttons, mouse for Macintosh only has one. So anyway, that's what this whole thing is about. Again, my suggestion is that you leave this at its defaults. If you've screwed around with all of this and you want to get back to the defaults, simply click on defaults. If with the next one we go over is mapping, if you click on this, what you'll see, I'm going to go to my default here because I changed mine. So what the mapping is saying here is that the surface of your tablet is then mapped to your monitor. So if you actually take your Wacom tablet now and your stylus and you go to the upper left-hand corner, you should see up in here, you should see your cursor in the upper left-hand corner of your monitor. If you go over to the upper right-hand corner, you should see it over in the upper right-hand corner part. If you go to the lower left-hand corner, you should see it down there in the lower left-hand and the lower right-hand part as well. This is where I run into a problem with this. So what we're doing here is we're mapping the entire tablet to the screen, but this is what I hate. So you need to watch this. This is a pet peeve of mine. You do not need to change to this. I'm just telling you how I work with these. The original Wacom tablets that I worked with had a large frame that went around it. So when I put my hand down on this and I wanted to work at the very bottom of my image or the bottom of my monitor, my hand would be like this, but it would be resting on something. Now what happens is that my hand falls off the tablet. And when I'm working in this middle area right here and my hand all of a sudden goes off, it's really uncomfortable for me. I really hate that behavior. So there are people who actually will make a frame to extend this because everybody hates this thing. So, or you can actually change the active area of your tablet. So what I do is I put the bottom of my tablet more in the middle of my, the bottom of my monitor in the middle of my screen. So to do that, what I do is, and you can do the same thing, if you look at the tablet area down here at the bottom, God, Jesus Christ, my computer is just going crazy. If you look down here at the bottom, or over here on this area, under mode, you've got pen, you've also got mouse. We don't have mouse. Again, this would be a dedicated Wacom mouse. This is, and we don't have those, so we don't even use this option. But the pen part we do use, obviously. So the tablet area, it's set to full right now. If you click on it and come down to portion, then what will happen is that this screen will open up and it'll say, how do you want to set this? Now mine, the way mine is set and the way yours will be set right here is that you will see it's the four corners of the tablet go to the four corners of your monitor. But again, I just told you, I hate the fact that my hand has to come off of the tablet to actually work on this area in the bottom. So I compress that area. I click on this bottom little white square in the middle, and I drag mine up so that the bottom of this is dead. This part of my tablet will not do anything now. The bottom of my monitor now has been mapped to the bottom, to pretty much the middle of my tablet. You can do this for everything. If you don't like, if you feel like traveling on your tablet takes too long to get to the corners, you can also pull this in on the side, so you can actually really narrow down. So this area, whatever's inside this square right here, or this rectangle right here, is the full, that is the only functioning part of your tablet, but it is mapped to the entirety of your monitor. So I actually leave this to the sides like this, and I do pull up the bottom here like this because again, I want to be able to do this. So now when I do this, my hand is resting on the bottom of the tablet, but I'm working at the bottom of my monitor. That's the only reason I'm doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and say okay to that. Again, you don't need to change yours. But the other thing is that in the screen area right now it's mapping the tablet, the live area of my tablet to the full screen of the monitor. If you click on this, you can change that. You can click on portion, and you can actually do the same thing for your screen. So say, for instance, you only use Photoshop on the right half of your screen. There are people who will set things up like that. They'll do a whole set of tools on one side of a screen, and then the area that they're actually working on will be on the other side. Or some people will do tools underneath the bottom and only work in the top part. You can narrow that down. Again, I don't necessarily suggest doing that, but you could. What I do say that so I'm going to hit cancel out of this. I'm going to go right back to that screen area. Again, what you do need to realize here, and this is great for people who have multiple monitors, is that you can use right now we only have one monitor set. If you had a second monitor hooked up to this, you would have monitor number 2. If you had a third monitor set up to this, you would have a monitor number 3. And you can dedicate your Wacom tablet to only working on one monitor, and you can actually do it only to one monitor in one area, or to 2 monitors, but only one. So you can change all of these parameters. Again, my suggestion is that the only thing you possibly change in here is if that part at the bottom is annoying for you like it is for me, then go ahead and do that. And then on-screen shortcuts, nobody uses. I don't use any of these. I don't know. Why would you bother to start assigning keyboard shortcuts from your computer actually to your Wacom tablet? No reason to actually do that part. So this is basically Wacom tablet in a nutshell. Questions?
My tablet says it's connected, but it's like not.
Well, first off, your tablet needs to probably figure out, I think it's orients like this. To see those squares in here. So, yeah, it looks like this is actually going to be mapped. It looks like this is actually upside down, so it's going to go like this. Oh, yeah, again, then this is a driver problem. That's what's going on in here. So this tablet needs a different driver. So yeah, guys, and we can redo it. Don't worry. But the fact is that we'll actually work on this right now. You don't actually need this part here. So I'm doing this upside down, but right, that's the top, that's the bottom. Yeah, it'll still work. Yeah, so something you should know about Wacom tablets. There's 1,000 Wacom tablets out there, and every single one of them has its own unique driver, which makes everybody crazy. So you have to have the right driver for your tablet, and again, you would think that it would be simple to build a universal driver for it and just work with all Wacom tablets. It doesn't. So the way you know which driver to get, if you look on the very bottom of your tablet, you will actually see the model number. It's really difficult to see in dark light, but it's there. You actually go to Wacom and you do a search for the driver for your model number, and that's what you need to download. Callie, you had a question, I think?
Yes.
What?
I wanted to ask how often, people use like the Wacom tablets and actually modify like the keys at the top of the button.
Nobody uses the buttons at the top. Do you?
No.
No one does. Again, it's just, again, to set it to do, undo, you're always hitting, because when you're not working with a tablet, you're still using the keyboard shortcuts to do the same thing on your keyboard. Why would you then add a whole nother layer to nobody does. I think, I say no one. I'm going to tell you this right now. In the real world out there, this is going to be a heartbreaker, I think, for a few of you. No professional studio anywhere, not one of them, all over the entire world, uses Lightroom. Yeah.
Do they use like Capture One?
They use Capture One, period. So I'm just throwing that out. There's a lot of things that you guys are learning here, whatever, but I'm just saying that, yeah, anyway, yeah.
Do you learn that in the digital tech class?
Oh yeah, half the class is about that. Yeah,
Thanks.
yeah. Okay.
As far as the erasing goes.
You'll see it actually happen in when we get into, yeah. Okay. All right, other questions about this? All right. So guys, we're going to get back to just looking at the brushes in Photoshop, and then we'll take a quick break. This has gone a little longer, but I had a 20-minute delay in the startup of all of this, and because my computer's all fucked up now, so anyway. So anyway, back into Photoshop. If you get back into Photoshop, again, hit the B key again to make sure you have the brush still going. Click on the drop-down menu where you can change the hardness of your brush. When this thing actually opens up, you want to come down to your legacy brush part and open it up. And then it's the default brushes that are inside the legacy brush group. So again, we've gone through the soft brush at the top. There's no pin pressure that's involved with this one. The one underneath it, the only thing that changes is it's a completely hard brush. There is no pin pressure involved in this. But the next one down, if you pick this one, then as you, again, it's a completely soft brush, 0 hardness. But if you use the pin pressure here will actually control the size of your brush. So as you're starting to do a stroke along, if you have a very light pressure, you'll have a very small brush. But as you start to add more pressure, your brush will actually grow as you're doing the stroke. And then if you back off the pressure, it'll start to actually get small again. So there's people who literally work with these tablets 8 hours a day, and they look for anything to speed things up. And so for them, they have enough muscle connection, muscle hand-eye coordination, whatever it is with this, that they get really used to controlling the brush size using pressure. And so it's just faster for them. They don't have to go in to something like this and change the pressure. They don't have to go up to the they don't have to change it in any place at all. They can just do it using the pressure in their tablet. I strongly suggest you do not do that because your brush size will not, the outline of your brush size does not change. It does not give you a preview of the size. It's strictly going to be, you'll see it in the results when you start painting with it. And so again, it doesn't work the way you expect it to work, which gets really frustrating for people when they first start working with these tablets. So I don't use either one of them. But anyway, so the one on so brush number 3 on our way down is size is controlled by pressure. It's still a soft edge on all of them. The one right underneath it, size still controls, is controlled by pressure, but now it's a hard brush. And then the next one down underneath that, pressure no longer controls, it's a soft brush. Pressure no longer controls size, it now controls opacity. And underneath that is a very hard brush where again, pressure is controlling the opacity. I strongly suggest you do not use this stuff in the beginning. So I always start off and tell people in the very beginning, you want to open this up, click on either the soft brown brush or the hard round brush. The thing that you need to remember about this is though, if you click between the two, you'll see it'll actually change your settings up in the top. However, that doesn't prevent you from changing the settings yourself. So if you select the soft brush, that's the first one at the very top, and then come up and grab your hardness and drag it all the way over to the right-hand side, you'll see that this has still got the soft round brushes selected, but it's a completely hard brush because I set it to 100% here. That's why you get this orange line that goes around this. It's telling you this is not really what you think it is. If you click on it again, you'll actually see it goes back to 0% hardness and that orange line goes away. That's true for all brushes. So if you go in and you use a preset like this, but then change something in here, you will get this orange line telling you this is not what you think you're playing with right now, but you're the one who had to make those changes. So anyway, I'm gonna click on the soft one right here. And the reason I point this out is that if you actually have pressure controlling something in a brush and you don't know it and you don't change it, then the behavior that you get from your brush, from your tablet, is not what you expect it to be. So this is always a safe place to go back to. If you click on either one of the two at the top, you're guaranteed that pressure is not going to control anything. Yes?
How do you get to reset? Because all my brushes are orange.
All your brushes are what? Let's close this up. Just worry about it. And we need to look at that. It shouldn't be that way. Okay. Wow. This has been the roughest start for a class that I've done in a long time. Guys, I've got, I'm going to be generous now. I'm going to call this 2:30. Let's make it a hard 10, be back at 2:40, and we'll actually start working on something here. Oh, by the way, really quick, there's just one other thing. When you've got this drop-down menu like this, to get rid of it, you actually need to come over. The easiest way is to do something. But if you come over and you actually click on your screen, like I could click right now, it's actually going to lay down a mark. You don't want that to happen. So just hover over the word Adobe Photoshop at the top and click on it, and that flyout menu will go away. And I will see you guys at 2:40. Okay, so back into Photoshop. So again, we should now have, you should have, again, hit the B key to get a brush. You should have a brush. So for me, whenever I hit a B key, what I simply do is I use my options bar up at the top to control everything except for size. So I click on this drop-down menu to control my hardness. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and make 100% hard brush. Don't matter whether it turns orange or whatever in the background, down at the bottom, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't have one of the pressure ones set, you're good. To get the flyout menu to go away, again, you don't want to click on your image because it will go, the flyout window will go away, but it will also make a mark on your image, and we don't want that to happen. So I just come up in the area. Oh, did everybody get on the sign-in sheet? Okay, thank you. I click on the word Adobe, or just really close to it, just at the very top. If you click on that, the flyout menu goes away. You haven't made a mark on anything. Coming across the options bar at the top, you need to make sure that your brush is a normal blending mode. There's a drop-down menu here that allows you to change that. Make sure it's normal because we will change it today. 100% opacity and 100% flow. If you don't know the difference in these two, don't worry, we will get to that. There's also icons that run across here. You don't need to worry about any of this stuff right now. We will get to all of that at some point later in time. So then, as far as your foreground and background colors go, it's the two sort of big swatches that are sitting at the very bottom of your toolbar on the left-hand side. If you hit the D key, it will default, no modifier, just the D key. It will default them to black and white. If you can't remember that, you can also click on see the super little icons that are right above the foreground color. So the color that sits on top to the left is the foreground color. The one that's behind it is the background color, obviously. If you can't remember hitting the D key to default those colors, you can always use the little baby icon, the little version of that. If you click on that, it'll also default your colors to black and white. Right next to that little baby icon set is a set of double-headed arrows. If you click on those, it will actually move you back and forth between, it'll just swap your foreground and background colors. A much easier way to do that, and the way I'm going to hopefully suggest that you do, well, I will suggest, hopefully you will take that suggestion, is just use your X key. Your X key, again, no modifier, just your X key will do the same thing. So I need you to hit the D key and then the X key. You need to get black as your foreground color because that's the color that you will always paint with. So painting is always with the foreground color. Then you need to also control the size of your brush. I use the bracket keys that are just to the right of the P key. So if you look at your keyboard, find the P key in the top right-hand side. The key that's right next to the P key is actually the opening bracket. It's a square bracket, the opening square bracket. If you click on that, you'll see it makes your brush smaller. If you then go to the key to the left, to the right of that, it's the closed bracket key. It makes your brush larger. So I want you to just go ahead and make a decent sized brush on this that you can actually work with. And then make sure that you are working on the layer mask. So you want to make sure that you got that white border is around the layer mask, not around your image. If it's around your image, you will actually paint black on your image, which is not what we want to do. We want to paint it on the mask. And if you just start to paint, you'll see what it ends up doing is that it ends up putting black on that part of your mask. And because that part of the mask is black, remember, black conceals, white reveals. So in this case, what's happening is that the black is actually hiding the castle, and what I see is what's underneath it, which is the gradient. Did that work for everyone? Okay. Hit the X key to get your brush to be white. The beautiful thing about working with layer masks is that you can add to them and you can take away from them. You now are going to paint with white and just start to paint over the area that had been painted black. And you will see it will actually reveal what's the castle again underneath that area. You can also, if you're using big enough thumbnails, which I've suggested everyone here do, this will be the last time I show you how to do this, because we've already done this 2 or 3 times. If you want big thumbnails like I do, because you can really see, I mean, look at this thumbnail right here. You can really see what's going on here. Most of you, if you're using the default version of this, don't have anywhere near that kind of information. To get to the bigger thumbnails, you go to the little menu to the right of the Layers tab. Some people call it this a hamburger, some people call it, anyway, it's the menu that controls the Layers palette. Click on that menu and you get you'll get a drop-out menu, and you want to come down to Panel Options, and you want to click on the radio button next to the largest of the thumbnails and say OK. You want to do the same thing with paths. So if you click on the Path tab, click on the hamburger, come down to Panel Options, also click on the radio button next to the biggest thumbnail, and then finally go back to Layers tabs, because we're going to be working on layers. Finally, you want to come over and do the same thing for channels. Click on the flyout menu for channels, come down to Panel Options, click on the radio button next to the biggest one right there, and say OK. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist in any of the other any of our other tabs. So, but again, these things will help considerably. Now. With the back up here again with my working on my top layer with the still the mask is selected because the white borders around it. If you hold down your Option key and click on the mask, you can actually see it, and you can work directly on this thing. So if for some reason you know where you need something to be, this mask is still alive and it's still going to do what it's going to do. So again, I'm going to hit the X key to paint with black again, and I'm just going to do another mark on here just so that you can see that you can change these marks. Once that happens, if you want to see, again, the whole image, the effect of it all, hold down your Option key and click on the layer mask again, and now you can see everything that's going on in its totality. You can do other things with this layer mask. You can do all of the filters on it. So for instance, if you got, again, make sure that the layer mask is selected, come up to the filter menu and come down to blur, filter menu, down to blur, down to Gaussian blur. And I'm going to start with a very small blur on mine to begin with. I'm only going to have like a 2 on it. You can see it's softening up those edges a little bit. But if you crank this thing all the way up to like 8, it starts to get really soft. If you crank it up into the 50s, it gets extremely soft. So I'm going to do something up around the 50s. I'm going to do a really soft one up here. So go ahead and say OK to that. If you then hold down your Option key and click, you can see what's going on here. It's softened up those edges so much that I'm starting to get real tones, shades of gray in here. It's not just black and it's not just white. The areas where the transitions are being made, the edges have been made so soft, it's sort of fading from a black in the center out to a white. And then you can, again, hold down your Option key and click on the layer mask again, and you can see what's happening in your image right now. So all of these things you can still do. It's just something to actually remember in here. Are we good on this part? Questions about this part? All right, I want to go back in history. So if you look at your history panel over on the side, and we're going to go just back one step to undo that blur. So just go to the brush tool that was right before it. It makes everything sharp again. So I want to go ahead and I'm going to paint in just a little bit more. I'm just going to cover some edges here just so it's a little bit, I've got a big kind of a hunk of it in the middle. You don't have to do that. You just want something pretty substantial in all of this. If you then hit the V key, you'll get the Move tool. And if we move this around like this, you can actually see that it will move the entire image around, that everything that we can sort of see on this, it's moving all of it around and revealing different parts of what are underneath it. But what you'll notice is that the castle and the mask are locked together. What we see changing is what is revealed underneath. So as I pull this all the way down, I only see like the blue and the green because that's the only thing that's underneath this image. If you want to temporarily hide the mask, so go ahead and leave this parked down like it's parked down like right now. If you want to temporarily hide the mask, you hold down your Shift key and click on the mask, and you will see it puts a big red X over the mask, so it is not, you don't see it anymore, but it's still there, and so you don't lose this. It's not like throwing this mask away. You don't lose this. It's still there. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key again and click on the big red X, and it comes back. I'm going to move this up again so it's kind of in the up in the big area, in the center part where it was before. It doesn't need to be exact, but close enough. There is a chain link now that you need to be aware of that's between the mask and the castle image. Remember, if we use the move tool right now, the mask and the castle are locked together. This is the lock right here. If you look at the area between the image part of your the castle and the mask, there's a thing that's supposed to look like a chain link. If you click on that, you break that link. Now, depending on whether you have your image selected or the mask selected, again, the borders around it is what will be moved now. I'm going to still have the V key, still have the move tool, but I've got the borders around my mask right now. So now when I move the mask, the castle does not move, but the mask does. We rarely use this, but the opposite we use all the time. So if you then instead click on the image part of this all, and you'll see you have the white borders around the image part of this all, and you start to move this now, you'll actually see the mask does not move, but the castle part does. So again, when we get to that point, I will remind you that we actually saw this chain link part and how it worked. If you can go right back into that same area between those two in the area and click on it to reconnect and relink the image and the mask together, and you will be good to go. At this point, I want to talk about, if you've got a notepad or something to take out and write this down on, you should put at the very top of this little part where you're going to actually put this note down, you should actually put in there, the heading of this will be the thing that will piss Verser off the most, and I promise never to do this. What I tell everyone is I will let you get away with doing this, fucking this up once or twice, but then I'm gonna start coming down on you hard, so just don't fuck it up. Just pay attention right now. So I'm going to select the layer mask again. So I've got a layer mask is on my image right now, and I want to get rid of the layer mask. So I'm going to drag the layer mask down to the garbage. And when I do, this dialog box opens up, and I have 3 options in here. So the first option that I have is just to cancel this. And if you hit on the cancel button, nothing happens. Again, you're canceling, throwing that away. If you click on it and drag it down to the garbage again, now we've got an option that says delete. I'm working my way from the bottom on the way up, and delete. And if you click on that, the layer mask just goes away. That's all it does. You just got rid of it. And you can actually add another one later on. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that to bring it back. And then we're going to do one last time. We are going to drag this thing down to the trash again. And this time we are going to hit the option that all of you have been taught to hit for some reason, and I have no idea why. But if you hit apply, what is now going to happen is that you will see there is a giant hole in your image. If you click on the eyeball for the gradient underneath it, this was a destructive move. I threw those pixels away. If I save this file right now and I don't leverage undo or any of that stuff and I open it back up again, this whole castle layer has been destroyed. This is a destructive move. And why on earth would you do that? The mask is doing the same thing, and I can still modify the mask, but once I throw pixels away, they're gone. And there's no way to recover from this. I mean, again, this image is open right now, but if I save this image and close it, I lose all of my history. I don't get to undo this. There is no undo. This is a completely destructive move, and I see people do this over and over and over again. The mask is doing the same thing. I can still modify the mask from now until Kingdom Come. But if I apply it, I destroy this layer. If I don't have a backup or a copy of this layer, I've destroyed the image, and there's no way to recover from that. And if this is a client's image and I just did that to the client's image and it is destroyed, you can be assured you will never work for them again. So the thing that will tick me off is when you start applying masks. You can delete all you want. That just gets rid of the mask. But do not hit that apply button. Everybody hold up their right hand right now. Put your other hand over your heart. Say verse or I swear. If you don't, if your religious beliefs don't like it, just say verse or I promise or something. Promise I will never apply a mask ever again in my life. Okay, thank you. All right, good. All right. Okay, I am going to go back in history where that didn't happen. So I'm going to go back to when I relinked my mask again, just because we've got a little bit more to work to do on the mask. So if right now I've got the borders that are going around my image part, I want you to go ahead and click on the image part, the castle part, to make sure the borders are going around it. And you'll see up here in your properties panel that you actually do have things that you can do, work on that you could do. You could do a select subject if there was a subject in there or any of that kind of stuff. However, up at the very top, you'll also see in this properties, it understands that there are these two, it understands they're both things. It understands that there is a pixel layer, which is what we've got selected. That's what the little, you look at my cursor to see where I am at the very top of the properties panel. It's the little, it's supposed to be a little scene of like the moonrise over a mountain or sunrise over a mountain, something like that. Anyway, and then right next to it is the mask. If you click on this, it'll actually change this to the mask. It should, in my opinion, have put that border around the mask, but it didn't. So at any rate, I'm going to go back to the pixel part up at the very top, and instead I'm going to select the mask so that I get the border around that. It will do the same thing up here in the very top. It changes it to mask. But now I can do other things with my mask. So again, this has got the invert button, so I can click on to invert this, and it just does the exact opposite. It shows what was hidden is now shown, and what was shown is now hidden. I'm going to click on invert to go back to it again. But now you can actually do the density of this mask, and you'll actually see it happen in real time. As we click on this and we start to drop this down, this mask turns from black to middle gray, and you can see now here, if you get right into the middle, right around 50%, this is now a combination of half of the castle and half of the gradient are mixed together because the mask is only at 50%. So it's hiding half of the castle thing, but that allows 50% or half of the gradient to show through. As you continue to crank this thing all the way down, it will still operate like that until you get down to 0, and then it's actually just gone, and you'll see the whole form that we painted in the mask is gone as well. It's still there though. The advantage of doing this is that you can save this file with a setting in here, and when you open it back up, it will still have this exact same setting, and you will be able to modify this. So this is a great control to have. Now, when we actually did the blur on the mask before, so I've got my mask selected, and I'm going to do a blur on it as well. I'm going to just go up to the filter menu, and if you pick Gaussian blur again at the top, this will run the last version of Gaussian blur that you did. So whatever we had ours set around 50 is or I had mine around 50, so it's a pretty aggressive blur. If you click on this again, it'll do the same blur. However, this now, if you save it, is a destructive move. Again, we have now blurred this mask. If we save this, close this image, and open it back up, there's no way to recover from that. We would have to repaint the mask. Again, you close these things, you save them, you close it, open them back up. History is gone. This is not Lightroom. So that is a problem, again, for me, because this is a destructive move. Even though it's on a mask, and I can throw the mask away, at least I haven't lost my image, and I can rebuild one. But a better way to do this, if we hit Command Z, is to actually use the feather control for the mask. So this is the feather control up in the properties panel. If you click and drag that forward, now again, I can do this at the same pixel count that I did with the other blur. This is the same blur now. I can close this, save it, close it. When I open it back up, it's still going to have this 53 or 52.8 whatever blur on it, and you will still be able to increase it or to take it completely off. So again, this is a non-destructive move for how you work with layer masks. And then finally, if you hit your B key to get your brush again, and I'm going to use your use the X key to get black to be your foreground color because I want to be able to reveal some of this stuff. I'm going to drop the opacity of my brush way down. So if you come up to your opacity control at the very top, there's 3 ways you can actually control this. Number 1, you can actually select in our case it's 100% right now, you can type in a value. Number two, you can click on the little down dropping arrow and you'll get this slider that runs underneath it, and that allows you to actually then control the opacity underneath this. Or you can do what I do, and that is just hover over the word opacity with your cursor. Your cursor will change from the arrow into a hand with a double arrow on the top. This allows you, it's called the scrubby slider. You can click on the name, and as you start to drag down to your left, it will actually change the value. And this is actually another thing that's really bothering me about, it's either my computer or this version of Photoshop. Typically, this will actually change the opacity while you're actually doing it. So, I mean, you can actually see it. Oh, wait, I'm doing a brush. Never mind. You can't see anything because I'm not doing the brush thing. Crank the opacity down. Sorry, I thought I was doing the opacity of the mask. Crank your brush down to like around 20%. And then, again, I am going to use my tablet and my stylus because I'm going to try to get used to it. If you come over onto your image now, you can actually see, as you paint with this, you're now going to only paint with opacity. And you can see it's very faint, but you also see as you go back and forth on it, I'm going to hit Command Z to undo mine. As you keep scrubbing back and forth, you do not actually pick up any more density in it. In order to have the brush increase, you need to lift your cursor, your stylus up off the tablet, and then come back down and hit it again. Opacity builds over time like this. You have to keep releasing it and coming back down. So that's actually how you would deal with opacity. If you come all the way back in your history to when we actually did the, to undo all the brushworks. So for me, it was the layer mask feathering change. I'm just going to undo that part. Instead, I'm going to drag my opacity all the way back up to 100, but then I'm going to take my flow all the way down to like 5%. Take it really low. 4 or 5%, somewhere in there. And now do the same move. And now you'll see as you start to scrub back and forth, you slowly bring the opacity up. It's not like you have to continue to lift up off and come back down. So most people, when they first finally get used to working with it, will work with flow over opacity because it's the way we typically think these things should work. And that's how I do the majority of my retouching. But what you'll notice in this is that, again, if you just do light strokes across the top or something like this, you'll start to build in something. Again, hold down your Option key and click on the layer mask, and you'll see what you're really doing. You're adding varying shades of gray. So the thing that you need to remember about layer masks is that, again, white reveals, black conceals, but all the shades of gray take it from completely concealed to completely revealed. If you're at a 50% gray, you see half of it, and half of it is actually transparent. So anyway, is that making sense to everybody what's going on? So hit the G key really quickly. That will take you to the gradient tool. Yes?
You said what about the gray completely revealing it?
You're going to see right now. Hit the G key to get the gradient tool. When that happens, again, the options bar at the very top will change. I want you to go up to the options bar. You have two options now, and the click down menu at the top. You either have gradient or classic gradient. I want you to pick classic gradient right now. We will talk about what the differences are later on. But if anyone's ever done any work with the gradient tool in Photoshop before, this will behave more like you're used to. So click on that. In the menu, drop-down menu that's right next to it, that is a preview of tone. Click on that drop-down menu. You will get a series of preset gradients. I want you to open up the basic version and then click on the very first one all the way to the left. What this is if you hover over it long enough or hover or hit it just right, whatever, you will get a little flyout readout that says foreground to background. That's what we want our gradient to be. And then finally, if you go to the 5 little icons that are to the right of that, these are the styles of gradients. I want you to pick the first one, which is a linear gradient. Make sure that you do have your mask is actually selected. And now what I want you to do is if you come over to the left-hand edge of your image, if you click and start to drag to the right and you go all the way over to the other side, Don't let go yet, but if you go all the way to the other side, if you want it to be a perfect gradient, you actually have to have this line horizontal. If you hold down your shift key, it'll snap to horizontal. If not, you can actually go up, which will give you a diagonal gradient, or down, also a diagonal gradient. But again, hold down the shift key, it'll snap to the middle and let go. And so what's happening now, again, I don't see anything because I don't have any of my eyeballs on. I just had the gradient visible because I had the options on it. So hold down your option key and click on the gradient again, and now you will see everybody. So what's happening in this now is that with my black edge of the gradient right here, on my layer mask, it is completely hiding the castle, and you see all of the you see all of the gradient underneath it. But on the other side, where it's actually white on this, again, white reveals, black conceals. White is showing you all of the field underneath it, and so that's what you're actually getting here. You don't have to pull gradients in exactly the same spot or the whole image. And if we're going to pull another gradient right now. What it will do is it will overwrite the one that's already in there. So every time you pull another gradient, it rewrites the one that you've already got in place. So I'm going to start sort of more at the edge of the castle. Kind of, you can see my cursor where it is. I'm just going to click and pull it over slightly. Hold down the shift key and let go again. And now you can see what really is happening in that effect. Again, look at the mask and what's going on. Hold down your option key and you can see where it's black in here is completely hiding the castle, and you see the gradient underneath it. Where it's white on this other side, you only see the castle area. You don't see any of the gradient. And then where you're making this transition through the grays, you go from seeing absolutely none of the castle to seeing absolutely none of the gradient background. Is this making sense? Callie, does that answer your question? Those shades of gray in the middle are in-betweens. They allow you to mix the layer that you're on with whatever's underneath it. Okay? That part matters. Are we good on this part? Questions about this part? Okay. All right, everybody can throw away the whole castle layer, the entire thing. So with it selected, again, just hit the delete key, it will get rid of it. We are going to look at some of the more standard selection tools right now. Then we're going to look at some of the AI-generated selection tools. And then finally, I know there's one person in this class who really wants to know how to select hair, because they've already called me and said, or emailed me, hey, can you show me how to do that? Anybody else in the class have any trouble selecting hair and would like to really know how to do that? You know, if you're, again, I've said this before, I will say this again, this is not a fashion beauty class. The reason we work on fashion images and beauty images in this class is because that's what I shoot and you're working on my files. But those techniques can be applied to, again, if you know how to remove a pimple from a face, you also know how to remove a blemish from a croissant. So just keep that part in mind. I'm not trying to teach a fashion beauty retouching class here. It just works out that way to some extent. Okay, so at any rate, but we do get hair today because it's one of the most challenging things that you can possibly do. So anyway, okay. So we're going to start with the more manual selection tool things. It's stuff that you guys are probably familiar working with. So we're going to start up at the very top. It's the first one that I want to get to is it's the second tool down. So it's underneath the move tool, which is at the very top. Second tool down. It is the marquee tool. If you click on the marquee tool, if you click near the lower right-hand corner of it, you will get a flyout menu, and you'll see you can do either the marquee tool, the elliptical tool, the single row, single column. Those you can do those. I want you to select the top one, the marquee tool. And again, your eyes should go up to the very top up here, and what you should see up at the very top are the options for this tool. In my case, I've got mine set to fixed ratio. It's the style of selection. I'm going to go back to normal, make sure that yours is set to normal as well. And then there's a feathering in here. So what feathering does is it actually just blurs your selection. So it softens the edge instead of having a really hard one. We'll take a look at it in just a second. So then I'm going to come over into the middle of my image, and I'm simply going to click and drag down. And I just want you to drag out like a square rectangle shape kind of in the middle of your image. And you get the marching ants. So we are going to save this selection. So I'm going to come up to the select menu, and I'm going to come down to save selection, and I'm going to call this Rec1 for rectangle 1, and say OK. Now when you do that, if you take a look at the bottom of your channels palette, you'll see that there is a mask down here called Rec1, and it's in this exact shape as this square is right now. So again, masks and selections are interchangeable. You can create a mask from a selection, and you can also create a selection from a mask. It cuts both ways. So to get rid of this selection, not the channel down that I've saved it called Rec1, but the marching ants, you hit Command D. If you want to load a selection, this is important. You do not come down and select the channel called Rec1. If you do, you'll actually see it. That's not what we want to do. If you've made this mistake, simply go to the top of the channels palette and click on the composite RGB again. Scroll down. What you want to do, I want to load this as a selection. To do that, you have to hover over the thumbnail. You do not select the channel. You hover over the thumbnail, and you can see when I hover over the thumbnail, I get the little hand. But if you hold down the Command key or Control key on Windows, you will get a little set of marching ant square that gets added to it. And if you click on this, it loads that as a selection, and you can continue on with this. Are we good on that part? Okay, selections matter. So I'm going to add a blank new layer on top of my image right now. So come over to the layers palette, and at the very bottom we are going to click on the icon that is the square with a little plus in the middle, and it actually adds a blank layer for you. And then I am going to hit the B key to get a brush. But look at what has happened here. In my case, I've got two red colors that are my foreground and background color. I don't want those two colors in there. What I'm going to do is default, again, get them back to their defaults, the black and white, by just hitting the D key. And then I'm going to paint with black. So I've got a brush, the B key, and I'm painting on a blank layer that's up at the very top. But when you start to paint, look what actually happens. Why is that happening? Why aren't I getting a black brush? Again, I didn't look up at my options bar at the top. My flow is still set to 4%. Command Z to undo that. Drag your flow all the way up to 100%. Make sure you've got a normal brush, 100% opacity, 100% flow, and now do this. And now what you can see that's happening is that the selection is restricting where I can do anything. This is critical for us. Again, if you can make the right selection in Photoshop, a good enough one, you can do anything. But again, selections, you understand how they actually work. This is now the only thing, the active selection that is in the inside part right here, restricts where my brush can go. And no matter how much I scrub on the outside, it's never going to change anything because I have an active selection that is controlling where this can actually happen. So for me, if I want to go back in time, and I do, I'm going to go back to where we had a new layer in my history. I've still got the marching ants going. Let's say I don't want to paint on the inside. I want the inside protected, not the outside. Well, if you hit Command I right now, so go ahead and hit Command I, you will see, sorry, there's nothing on this layer, so you can't change that. We'll look at what Command I does later. But at any rate, what I was trying to show you was that, well, here, we can do it down. You've still got the marching ants going. Go ahead and select your background layer, the stuff that's actually down at the bottom. So again, we're making it active. You can leave the layer number 1 up on the top that doesn't have anything on it. But now hit Command I, and you can see it inverts what is inside the selection, but only what's inside the selection. So if I hit Command Z to undo that, I don't want to invert the image. I want to invert my selection. I want to be able to work on the frame area around it. I want the center to be protected. So you need to invert your selection. It is a different thing than inverting the image. So with the selection still going, you'll see that there are no marching ants around the exterior of this. If you come up to the select menu and you come down to inverse, this is inversing the selection, not the image. And if you click on that, you will see now you do have marching ants that go around the inside. The marching ants in the middle have not changed at all, but now I'm going to go back up to my top layer number 1. I've still got a brush. I'm going to try to paint in the middle, and you see I can't. But the minute I come to the outside, I can paint on all of the outside. So again, I've got an active selection going on the outside, which is where I can now paint. I have inverted the selection. Does that make sense, everyone, the difference? So don't get caught up in that, or you'll end up inverting your images, and you really don't want to do that. Command Z to undo that. I'm going to go back to the original selection. To do that, you simply invert the selection again. Up to the select menu, down to inverse, and now you lose the marching ants on the outside. The inside now will actually, is actually the selected area. I'm going to throw away the layer that's on the very top, the number 1 layer. So now I've just got the marching ants in my original background gradient layer. If you hit Command J, it's what we call jumping. Command J stands for jump, and what we have now is, if you turn off the background layer eyeball at the bottom, you will see it has done a copy and paste. So with an active selection going, Command J will do a copy and paste and put it on a brand new layer. And that's what we've got going on here. And you can see that it's actually a very hard edge selection, a very hard, right now, what I'm looking at here. Is everybody good with this part? All right, I want you to go back in time where we did a delete layer. You should have the marching ants again. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect. And instead now I'm actually going to go back to the marquee tool. The keyboard shortcut for it is the M key. Again, I don't use tons of keyboard shortcuts. I'm not going to require anybody in this class to memorize these things, but they're important ones that you will use all the time, and those are the ones I'm going to throw out to you. Use them or not. You can do all of this work manually using menus. But before you drag out another menu or another selection again, I want you to feather it. So up in your options bar right here, I want you to change the feathering. Again, if you hover over the word feather, you get a scrubby slider, and I want you to crank this up to, let's go up to like 10 pixels. You just close, 10.1, 10.2, 10.9.3, whatever, just something close. And now I want you to click and drag out again. And then I want you to jump this. The first thing you should notice is when I let go, I've got rounded corners on this right now. I don't have square corners on my selection anymore. Command J, if you actually jump this and then turn off the bottom one, you'll see that you have very fuzzy edges. Those very fuzzy edges are because we feathered the selection when we made it. We could have blurred the selection as well. We'll look at that in a second. But does this make sense what the difference is here? So the thing about feathering is that it's sticky. So all of a sudden, if your selections aren't working out the way you think they should be, this is something to check. I'm going to grab the feathering and drag it back to 0. I'm going to throw away the layer that I just jumped. I've got the bottom one again. I'm actually going to then change my style now of selection. So come up to the style menu, click on the drop down, and we're going to go down to fixed ratio. When you do fixed ratio, you actually get a width and height. Again, it's not inches, it's not pixels, it's not picas, it's just the ratio. So our selection now is going to be 8 by 10, 8 wide by 10, 10 by 8, 10 wide by 8 high. If we now click and pull this out, you'll see you can't change the size of this. You can make it bigger or smaller, but the ratio is locked in. So I use this tool all the time. This is actually what I use to ultimately crop with. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. But the issue that I've got with this thing right now is that let's say that I do want to make, I do want to crop this image. Right now, when I clicked and pulled that out, how many, well here, let's try this. We'll try something different here for just a second. I'm gonna show you one last thing. Command D to deselect that one. Finally go from fixed ratio down to fixed size. When you do fixed size, this allows you to actually type in units that you want your image to be. Now, by default, mine right now is 64 pixels by 64 pixels. All you do is click, and it just gives you that. That's what that is on this image. You don't make it smaller, you don't make it bigger, you don't make it anything. It's just a fixed size on this. So again, say what? Okay. Command D to deselect. We're going to go back to normal for just a second. I want everybody to select just the gradient, the colors. I want you to do a selection that is just the middle part. Again, I've gone back to a normal style in here, so you're doing this free form. But how many of you, as you start to go, I always start on the top left and go to the right. But you can do this anything. You might be the person who starts in the lower right and comes up, or you can start at the upper right and pulls down. I mean, however you want to do it. But how many of you do it when you actually try to get close to that perfectly top edge of the red up there? Your cursor is no longer the selection tool. It turns into the cursor for all of Photoshop, right? It's really frustrating. So if you try to click, you end up moving, you end up dragging a guideline. Oh, by the way, how many of you guys have your ruler showing? Everyone, I want everyone ruler showing for the rest of your life. To get them, come up to the view menu and come down and put a check mark right next to rulers. These things just, they're invaluable, and they also give us guidelines and all sorts of things. So anyway, we use them. But the problem is that when I get close enough here to really make the selection, inevitably it turns into my cursor. So the way to get around that is, because I want to make a selection of all of the color here from side to side, but all of it. So I'm going to start in the middle of the red. Do this with me, please. Start in the middle of the red, and I'm just going to click and pull down to the right. It doesn't matter what shape you make. Still hold down your mouse. Do not let go. If you let go of your mouse, this does not work. If you did let go of your mouse, hit Command-D to deselect, and then drag another one out. Keep your mouse down. If you hold down your space bar now, you can move this thing around. And if you put it up on the edge, so you line up the marching ants on the top with the very top of the red, and you start to press against the left side, you'll notice that it actually, your selection begins to shrink. You will never, you're selecting the whole thing now. You've got that whole edge, but it's perfectly selected. So I'm going to lift mine up just slightly. Then let go of your space bar and then do the lower right-hand corner. You can't go past the edge of the image. If you select, if you drag past that image, how many of you guys, your image keeps going? Okay, we want to kill that behavior. Here, I'll show you what I mean by this. This is what I mean. Don't do this. Just watch my screen really quickly. I did this. So I click and drag down. I come up here. I line it up with the top and the left-hand side, and I come over to the other side, and it just takes off on me, and I get this. This is unworkable. Why would Photoshop even make this? And this is on by default. So I'm going to hit Command-D to deselect. I'm going to double-click on the hand to reline that whole thing up and go up to your Photoshop menu, down to Settings, down to Tools. If you're on Windows, you go to the Edit menu, down to Settings or Preferences. I forget which they call it in Windows. It's down near the bottom. It's one of those two. It's either Preferences or Settings. In Macintosh, it's Settings. If you come down to then the Tool Settings, you can just go to General and then click on Tools. What you need to uncheck is this over scroll right here. If you uncheck that and say OK, then that behavior will not happen anymore. But that's how you actually make perfect selections of stuff. Does that make sense, everyone? That part work? Okay. Last thing that we're going to do on here really quickly is we are going to hit the M key to get the marquee tool again. I have zero feathering. It's a normal style blending mode here. I'm going to click and just drag out. What I want you to do is click out and drag out another square that in part is shares the same area as the very first one we made, but also goes beyond it. So I've just, you can see the first one I made, that Rec 1, I don't have the lower left or right hand corner selected. I do on this one. And we're going to save this one as well. So up to the select menu, down to save selection, and I'm going to call it Rec 2. And say OK. And then Command-D to deselect. So we can now, because we've got multiple selections, you'll see down at the bottom I've got Rec 1 and I've got Rec 2. We can put these together in different ways. So to do that, come up to the Select menu, down to Load Selection, and in the drop-down menu underneath Channel, I'm going to pick Rec 1 and say OK, and it now loads it. Now if I come back to that same thing, up to the Select menu, down to Load Selection, if I do Rec 2, it says new selection here. So what it's going to do is it's going to get rid of my original one, and it's just going to give me the new one, Rec 2. But I instead want to do something different to it. I'm going to say, I want you to add this to it. So now it's going to add Rec 2 to Rec 1. And if you click on it, you'll see it's completely changed that shape. Command-Z to undo that. Go back up to the Select menu, back down to Load Selection again. click on the drop-down menu to Rec 2, you can actually subtract it from the selection. And now when I do that, I get this weird L-shaped thing. Command Z to undo that. And then finally, the last option in this, load selection, down, click on Rec 2, is that intersect, and click on this. And when you do that, the area that remains selected is the only thing that was common to both of them. So this is a way to modify your selections further. Make sense? I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. Last thing we're going to do is transform selections. Now, most of you are used to using transform from the edit menu. This didn't used to work. So this is, you can come in and scale and warp and do all kind of stuff. This did not work on selection. So you would come down and say, okay, I want to scale this thing. And you now actually get transform controls using the edit menu. But I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. It doesn't undo it. So to get rid of this, you click on the little circle at the top with the slash through it. Again, your options bar is controlling all of this. Instead, you go back to the old school version of it, because Lord knows Photoshop will change it back again. They happen in the select menu. So come up to the select menu and you'll see you have transform selection. I think this seems like it's going to do the exact same thing. But again, if you're working, end up in an older version of Photoshop and you go to the edit menu and you do it, you don't get the control handles and you can't do it. So this allows you to, again, up at the options bar, you've got the width and the height of the transform is happening, or the selection is happening up here. If you click on the chain link between the two, then you then move one of them, it moves the other, so it keeps the ratio of your selection intact, so the width and the height ratio remain consistent. However, you've also got this thing on the far right-hand side that looks like, I always think it looks like a tennis net. Don't ask me why. But if you click on that, this is the warp tool. You can now have control handles on your transform. You can click and modify these things. So you think that you can only do square selections. This tool will allow you to map stuff to buildings, it's not going to do trees, like, sort of weird shape like that, but anything that has a solid hard edge to it, this will allow you to actually do perfect selections, because you can just dial this stuff in. You can move all of these points, do separately. And then once you get the thing that you want, you click on the check mark, and you'll see you now have these marching ants. And it's completely transformed. So everybody thinks, oh, the only selection tools in the world are all the AI selections, select subject, select background, select all that kind of stuff. That is not true. These things are incredibly powerful, and they've been around forever. All right, questions about this? Okay. We're going to do a push in a minute, so I'm going to do another quick 10-minute break. I need everybody to get up, get some coffee, whatever. We're going to start to look at the automatic, AI selection group, and then we're actually going to go after hair. So be back at 3:40, and I'll see you then. All right. We're almost done with this. A couple other things I want to show you really quickly in Photoshop. I've got a selection going on right now. I'm going to look at one other selection tool before we get into the more automated ones. So I'm going to go down. It's the one right under the marquee tool is actually the lasso tool. If you grab the lasso tool and you bring it over onto your image and you actually click and start to make a shape, you will notice that the shape that was already going on, I already still had my transform one, my selection was still going on. What ends up happening is that the selection that I had going goes away and I get a new selection. I start a new one. And that's the behavior of all the selection tools except for the quick selection tool. We'll look at that one in a second. I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that, to bring back the weird shape that I have going. If you want to add to a selection, and again, this is true of all the selection tools, you'll notice right now that I just have a plus for the lasso tool. If you add the Shift key, you get a small little other plus underneath it. And now when you click and actually draw something out, it doesn't get rid of your original selection, it simply adds to it. If you hit Command Z to undo that, you can actually hold down the Shift key again. You can actually intersect with part of the image that you had, the selection that you already had going on. So this allows you to modify your image, your selection by adding to it. Command Z to undo that. If you hold down the Option key, you'll notice instead of a little plus underneath that lasso tool, you get a minus. Now when you actually click on this, you can actually subtract from areas. So this is just a way you can go in and clean up selections. You can fine tune them this way. I just want to make sure that everybody was good on that part. I think pretty much everyone is. I'm going to hit Command D to deselect this altogether. Before we move on here, I want you to notice one other thing about this. This is the secret about how Photoshop works. If you look at your channels palette right now, it looks just like your layers palette does over here. I'm looking at the very top. The composite up here looks the very same as it does over here. But if you look underneath it, you can see that you've actually got a red, green, and blue channel here, and they've actually got these black and white versions of this gradient up in the top. And the black and white versions, the thing that you need to do, this was the secret that the Knoll brothers figured out when they invented Photoshop. What they said was that, okay, every color image that we have that's in RGB is made up of some amount of red, green, and blue. It's just that's those three things put together. If you go back to our color lecture, that's exactly how they work. So to control the amount of red, green, and blue, they simply use a mask. This was their breakthrough. So if you come over and just simply click on the red channel, so again, not the thumbnail, but the middle part of the channel, you'll actually see what's going on here is that if you look at the gradient that's over my layer, that's what we're looking at here. The area that is white up here, this top part of this image that's right up in here is white. On the red channel, it's letting in all of the red light, and you can see the result of that is that it's completely red here in the layer. But you'll also see that in the green and the blue, it's totally black here. That is because there is no red in a pure green or a pure blue, and these are pure. These are all pure colors. If we go to the green channel, you can see that this mask is controlling that. There is pure green, so this white is letting also. I always think of the channels as like a projector that is projecting onto a wall, and you're putting a mask in front of it, or if you're in photo studio, gobos in front of it to control where the color hits and where it doesn't hit. So in this case, because the red stripe at the top has no green in it, it's black. The blue stripe also has no green in it, so it's black. But the green stripe in the middle is completely green, and that's why it's got, this thing is pure white. And then the same final thing happens in the blue part down here. It's simply masking, controlling how much red, green, and blue are in any area. This is going to play a huge role for us later on, so just keep that part in mind. Okay. I'm going to take a look now. We can close this up. We're going to open a different image to work on, so you do not need to save that. Yeah, help improve Adobe products. I could get arrested for what I would say to them, so not going to do that. So go back into our session number 3 again. I keep calling it session. I keep forgetting what you guys, I named it class in 1, and then I call it a different thing for you guys. So in your student files week 3, there is a file called 1035 master copy v4 png. Again, don't just double click on that because it could open up in preview. It could open up in 1,000 different programs. What happens just happened to me. I waited too long to actually get there, so I'm going to do it again. Just drag it on top of your Photoshop icon and it'll open. And if you did not get this warning, I need to know. All right, so for those of you who did not get this warning, so what this is saying is that this thing does not have an embedded RGB profile. This means your color settings are incorrect. So to fix this, you need to go up to the Edit menu. This is for both Photoshop and Windows. Up to the Edit menu. Let me cancel out of mine really quickly so I can get to it. Up to the Edit menu, down to Color Settings, and likely you are seeing up here North American General Purpose 2. Is that correct? You need to change that to North American Pre-Press 2, because this thing, North American General Purpose, if we do this, it is the wrong color space to be working in. It has sRGB instead of Adobe RGB, and it's also got all of these mismatches unchecked, which means that shit like this that happens, you're not going to be aware of it happening, and that is a huge, huge problem. Sorry, I'm just making sure I'm still recording. Yeah. So Again, in the color settings, change this to North American Pre-Press. It will change your color space to Adobe RGB, and it will turn on all your warnings. And now when you actually try to open that guy, you should get this warning that this thing does not have a color profile attached to it, so it cannot be properly color managed. And I'm not going to assign a profile to it. There would be no reason to do that. And I'm just going to say OK. So in this image right now, if we take a look at the next group down of selection tools underneath the lasso tool, if you click on it, you will get a flyout menu. Again, I'm clicking on the lower right-hand part. At the very top is the object selection tool. We're going to hold off on that one in just a second. Underneath that one is the quick selection tool. We've already talked about this one. Again, when you use this tool, you just need to make sure that this tool never touches the edge you want it to find. Remember when we were doing the whole castle sky thing? We'll look at that again in just a second here. Magic Wand tool, I'm going to postpone that one just because I need to buy some time here right now. So I'm going to get on. We will get back to the object selection tool in a second. But I do want to go after one last tool in this whole group. And let me see, I may want to do this on a different, I want to do this on a different image. You can leave the person still open, but the image I want to go back to was in our week number 1. I want to go back to the red car. It's a better thing to show you the last selection on. So go back to your class week number 1, your files from week number 1, and inside that is the redcar.psd. Again, drag that on top of Photoshop. And open that, and I've got to plug in my computer really quick, so hang on one sec. Okay. I'm temporarily going to park the girl standing in the against the wooden wall down just to get it out of the way. If this ends up happening to you where I've still got a window that's showing up through my Adobe Photoshop. If this happens to you, simply come up to the Photoshop menu down to Hide Others, and it will go away. Double click on the hand. Double click on the hand to actually get the car. The next thing we're going to actually look at is the color range tool. So it is in the select menu. So come up to the select menu down to color range, and a dialog box will actually open up. I'm going to make mine look a little bit more like yours. So you should see something in here. Right now we don't have anything in the car selected. I've already made this selection before and it's actually remembered it, so don't worry if my preview looks different than yours. We're going to take a look and see what this is really quickly. So the problem that I have with doing this is that this is the tiniest little preview in the world they could possibly make. If you want to see a bigger version of this, you can use the selection. So at the very top, you're going to have sampled colors. That's what comes up by default. And then you'll also have down here, in the typically this will be, the selection preview will be set to none. You can change this to grayscale, and then your image will mimic what's in this little preview down here. But to start with, we're going to leave that off, and then we'll actually fine tune it in just a little bit. So I'm going to go back to none for that. In the drop-down menu here, I want to go through these really quickly. If you come down on the drop-down menu, not sampled colors, you can come down to select the reds. So what will end up happening is you can see the reds that are here in the little preview. Again, if you want to see the big version of it, go to grayscale. So these are the reds that are in the image, or what Photoshop thinks are the reds. The problem with this is that these are predetermined ranges of red, and wherever the car falls into that is great, but wherever the car falls out of that is not selected and is not part of this. So again, it has limited use. If you come down to the yellows, this will show you the yellows that are in the car. I don't know if you guys know this, but most green trees are dominantly yellow, not green the way we think of them. So that's why these trees are getting picked up in the background. If you come down to the greens, you'll actually get the grass that's on, some of the grass that's on the background here. If you come down to the cyans, there is cyan in the chrome of the car. If you come down to the blues, there is also blue in the chrome of the car. and then finally the magentas. And part of the car is actually, it's straddling the line between red and magenta. That's why we're seeing a bunch of stuff up there. If you continue on the way down and do highlights, this will pick out the highlights of your car, and you can see wherever the car is considered something that's not a highlight, it's actually very dark. Again, but these are all predetermined ranges. Now, once you get down into the highlights range, you do have some control. You've got range here down at the bottom. So if I pull this range to the middle, sort of like a 128, then what it's doing, everything that's lighter than middle gray is considered a highlight. For me, highlights are really much more in the tones between probably like a 230 and 255. That's more where this would be. So you do have some control in here. What fuzziness does is it actually will round off the range for you. So it will make the range, the selection part of it, you'll see this looks really crisp and chunky here. If you actually crank the fuzziness up, it will extend that range for you. If you bring the fuzziness way down, it makes it a really sharp and hard edge on this. So this will just soften up that range. The range is the bigger player in all of this, but the fuzziness will actually soften those edges, or the selection part up a little bit. And then finally, again, you've got midtones and you've got shadows. And then finally, you've got skin tones. Skin tones actually only pick Caucasian skin tone. It's very limited in its use, and it's also, no one uses it. I'm just going to throw that out there. Absolutely no one uses it. There's much better ways to select skin tone. So all of these are possibilities, but the tool really shines when you do sampled color. So go up to the very top thing and do sampled color. And I'm going to start off here at the very top here. You'll see that there, when you pick sampled color, you've got options that are sitting right underneath your save button on this, and fuzziness. So again, I'm going to go back to none on this, and I'm going to simply select like the top of the car. So I'm going to select the hood of the car up here. And again, it's just you click on it and it will actually build a selection. And you can see in your preview, it's very limited. If you click on your grayscale now to get the big preview on here, you can see it's extremely limited in what it actually picked. If you grab the fuzziness slider and move it forward like this, it will actually pick up a greater area. This is not the best way to extend your range. The best way is to establish what your range really should be with a low fuzziness and then increase it later on. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to drag my fuzziness down. I'm going to bring it down to around 30. That's usually the default in it. And you see I've got very little color that's selected here. I'm going to go back to my regular on the car, so back to none on the car so that you can actually see this. You can extend this range. You can add to the range, which is what we really want to do. To do that, you use the eyedroppers that are underneath the Save button. You'll see that the eyedropper there, just like all the selection tools, what it does, the first one by default, is every place you click, it gets rid of the original selection and makes a new one. So if you click on the side of the car, I'm going to click down by the fender of the car, I'm going to click, you'll see that the selection completely changes. The top part that was selected is no longer selected, and now just the car part on the lower part is selected. Well, that's not really going to help me out here. I want to extend that range. So I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. It goes back to the little car at the top, just the highlights at the top. Instead, you pick the second eyedropper, the one that's got a little plus next to it. And when you click on that, you can actually now click on other parts of the car, and instead of getting rid of the original selection, it just adds, and it keeps adding and adding and adding. So you can click on other parts of the car, and you can see the area that I'm adding here is just getting bigger. But you can also click and drag. You don't need to click through everything. So I'm working on this side of the car, and you see there are areas that are not selected. I'm going to click and drag down through all of this, and it extends all of that selection. I'm going to click on the part that's underneath the wheel right here. This is extending my selection. I'm going to try under the car, under the front of the headlights right here. That extends it even more. I'm going to try the highlight that's on the top. That grabs that guy. I'm going to see what I'm doing this one at a time. I'm going to do the one that's in the very hood of the car at the very top. That extends it a little bit more, and I see I've got a lower panel on the side that's missing. I'm going to click on that, and that extends it even more. So I've added to all of that. Now you can use your fuzziness slider to extend or to clean that selection up even more. And so this is the way that you would begin to actually build a selection of the red based on the color. Again, I'm going to click on that center part right there, and you'll see that center part is a highlight, and so it selects the whole scene. You can use Command Z in this space. This actually works just as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Now I've got a selection of marching ants, but I want to keep this as a selection, so you want to save it. So come up to your select menu, come down to save selection, and do red, because that's what we're saving here, and say okay. Command D to deselect. If you then come over to the red channel and you click on it, you can work directly on channels. So you'll see, if you look at the car, the original red car, there's actually a part of the tire that's red. I don't want that as part of my selection. So I'm going to go to the red channel that has selected this, and I'm going to get rid of that. With the red channel selected, you can see it's highlighted. Again, it's that blue highlight. Hit the B key to get your brush. Make sure that this is a completely hard brush. Normal blending mode, 100% opacity, 100% flow. I'm going to use the bracket keys to make it very small. Black is my foreground color, and I'm simply going to paint this away. Also, the highlight that's on the inside, the lower part of the car, I'm also going to paint away. This little pock mark that's in the center part, I'm going to get rid of that. If you wanted to add to the selection, the highlight that's on the top, I want to add to that. Hit your X key to make white your foreground color, and you can paint across that. So this allows you to modify all of your image. So if you didn't want any of the chrome selected, go back to the black key and actually select this area and paint all of this out. I mean, you guys get where this is going. And now if I use this as a selection, so I'm going to come back up to the RGB composite of my car, select it, double click on the hand, and then I'm not going to select the red channel. I'm just going to hover over the thumbnail, hold down the command or the control key and click. You have now loaded just the red car, the red part of the car. Questions about this? Change your game. All right, you can close this up. You don't need to save it. We do need to go to the model. So to get to the model that we parked down in the bottom, you can go up to the window menu here, and she will actually be listed right here. And if you click on that, it'll bring her back. So now we're going to actually look at some of the automated selection tools. So to get to the first one, you can come up to the select menu and come down to subject. We're going to do select subject. And when you do that, it's actually going to look at your image and it's going to try to process this. However, there's two different ways that you can use select subject. You can use this locally, so only your computer is doing the calculation, or you can send this to Adobe servers so that they do the calculation for us. We set up the default that we wanted, our preferred method of those two by default. However, we don't see them right now. If you click on this drop-down menu, you don't get them in here either. I think they should ultimately add a version to this, but they don't. So I'm going to hit Command D to deselect, and we're going to go after select subject in a different way. If you now come to the quick selection tool menu and you click on this, by default now they have the object selection tool. This is also done, this is using, again, artificial intelligence to do this. If you click on the quick selection tool, the object selection tool at the top, you will see that up at the very top, I don't have it right yet, yeah, you will actually see at the top in your options bar, you have select subject. If you click on the little arrow right next to it, you can see what you want Photoshop to use to do the selection. So by default, we set this up in preferences. We said to do the cloud. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it at the cloud. You'll notice I've got this image is all grayed out. Don't worry about that part. But I'm going to click on select subject. And we will get a set of marching ants. I'm going to jump this to its own layer. I want to see whether the local version or the cloud version is better. Everybody assumes that the cloud version, the Adobe servers are going to be better. That's not always the case. So with right now the cloud version selected, hit Command J. It will make a copy of this image, and you want to then double click on this layer number 1 and rename it, and we're going to call it cloud. Then I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to go back down to the background to do another selection, the same thing, but I want to see what the local version looks like. So click on your drop-down menu and go to Device and hit Select Subject. And it looks pretty much the same, so I'm going to hit Command J to actually jump that. I'm going to double click on that and call it Local, or Device, that's what I should call it. And then I'm going to turn off the background version. I'm going to zoom into the hair. This is where you can always see good selections or bad selections. And I don't know about you guys, but that looks fucking awful. Awful. Look at this. All of this. Again, I keep using, every time I come over at the object selection tool is wanting to do it. So you don't need to do this, but I'm going to temporarily go to my move tool just so I have a cursor. Look at how skanky that is. Awful. So then I'm going to turn on the cloud version and turn off the other one. It's a little better, but not a heck of a lot. That's still horrible. I would never use either one of those. So that's the first of the quick selection tools. I'm going to throw away both of these layers. If you want to throw away both of them together, you can hold down your shift key to select the second one so they're both selected, and then hit the delete key and they're both gone. I'm going to double click on the hand to kick back out. We are going to explore the object selection tool now in more legitimacy. So click on the object selection tool. And then as you start to hover over your image, it starts to actually build the selection part. So you'll see if you hover over different parts, you will see that it ends up giving this sort of like pink overlay on it. And you can come down to the chair. It takes a while to calculate, but eventually if you click on the chair, it will actually run it. And then if you hit Command D to deselect, we've forced the selection of the chair. We've still got the person. The image that's up on the wall, if you click on that, it'll force load that. It'll remain a part of it, Command D to deselect, and then when you hover over that, you see the pink. So it'll go through all of this eventually. However, you'll also notice up at the very top, it says Select People. If you click on the Select People part, if there was more than one person in this image, their faces would show up here in the top. There aren't, there's only one in here, but if we click on her face, you'll get a drop-down menu, and you can say, I want to select the entire person, or you can break them down in the parts that you want to select. So I only want to select the jacket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the upper clothes only. I'm going to click on that. It's not everything in here, so I'm going to click on the arms. That's her arms. The lower clothes is the lower part of the jacket, and her. So it's not doing a really good job of breaking that part out. So I'm going to forgo that part. I'm going to click on upper clothes again. It will deselect it. But now let's just try to select her skin. So you could actually click on her nose, her facial skin, her arms, and her hands. So this is a way, and it doesn't have, you've got upper body skin. Photoshop actually dissects the image, and it changes these options that it will give to you. But now if you wanted to only select her skin, this would be a great way to do it. And the advantage of this is that this will allow you to go in and adjust things like the color of her skin, the saturation of her skin, without impacting the rest of the image. I mean, that's the whole idea of using selections. So let's actually see what that looks like. So go ahead and hit Apply. We now have marching, it's going to do the computation. We've now got the marching ants going. Remember, when you have a selection and you add an adjustment layer, it will add that selection as a mask. So come down to the Add Adjustment layer at the very bottom. We're going to click on that, and we are going to add a hue saturation layer. And you see when you do that, that we now have a hue saturation, and we've got a selection of her skin. If you want to see it, hold down your Option key and look at the layer mask. This is her skin. Now again, I've got that pink overlay on it because it's still trying to offer that up to me. But if you then click on the property part of that, not the layer mask, we can actually change the saturation of her skin. So grab the saturation slider and just drop it down, and you can see you make her really spooky, eerily dead because we completely desaturated the skin, but we didn't impact any of the rest of the image. I wouldn't go quite that far. I would actually knock it off a little bit though. If you want to see the difference, turn on the eyeball on and off. You can also double click on that saturation slider to zero it out, and we can push your skin to be slightly more green or slightly redder. I mean, all of those things, but just realize that once you build the selection, if you add an adjustment layer, it will automatically add that layer mask to it. So There are other auto selection, AI selection tools. If you go up to the select menu and look down, you will also see that sky is an option. It's very limited. It does look just for skies, but there's a lot of landscape photographers that are thrilled to have this. We will go back when we revisit. We are going to refine the castle file that we built earlier, the sky part of that. We will revisit this one and take a look at that. But nonetheless, that's the AI tools basically in a nutshell. So we're going to look at one last thing before we actually do the knockout of the hair. So you can close this image up. You do not need to save that. So the last one I want to look at really quickly, the last of the sort of the auto spaces kind of thing, is going to be also in your session class number 3 in your folder. There is a select and mask practice file. If you can open that up into Photoshop. And all of these tools matter because your homework is going to use most of them. Again, if you did not get this warning, you still do not have your stuff, your things set up correctly. So what this warning is, this image actually has a profile. It's just not the working space one. That's okay. You can use it. It doesn't really matter what we do in this regard right here. I'm just leave these usually at its default and say okay. So in this image right now, again, I'm going to get off the object selection tool. You've got 2 layers in here. You've got one that's a profile of this girl on a flesh-colored background. If you turn off the eyeball of that, you've got a beach scene behind them. So what we want to do is we actually want to mask this out so that we composite the girl with the beach scene. That's the goal in all of this. So we've already looked at some ways of doing this. I'm going to show you the last way. Again, this is actually the a go-to for a lot of people when the AI tools maybe don't work quite as well. To get there, you come up to the select menu, down to select and mask. And what happens is this brings you into its brand new own space. We're inside of Photoshop, but we are inside a completely different space. You'll notice I don't have the range of tools on the side that I had, and my palettes on the other side have completely changed. I don't have layers over here or any of that stuff. To start with, your screen may not look like mine. So we're going to start, and I'm going to get it to look like mine. So in the view mode menu, you want to click on this drop-down view mode. You can actually view this starting with the onion skin, marching ants, overlays. You've got a lot of options in here. We're going to start with the onion skin. It's the reason this space was pretty much invented. With the onion skin in place, you've got a transparency slider underneath this. If you drag the transparency slider all the way to the right, you only see the beach. If you go all the way to the left, you only see the girl. If you bring it right in the middle, and it's not always in the 50% range, depending on your image, sometimes it's better to favor one of these than the other to actually be able to see them both. But the idea behind this is that wherever you select in here, it's like this is supposed to give you the illusion that you're looking through an onion skin. And that then when you actually make a selection in here, it actually pulls the skin off of that area. So it allows you to see what is selected and what isn't selected, but it also allows you to see both of the layers. It allows you to see all of the girl and all of the background as well. So to start with, the tool at the very top on the left-hand side is the quick selection tool. It's no different, and you don't use it any different. When you use this tool, it is a brush. You can make it larger or smaller using the bracket keys, but you do not want this tool to touch the edge you want it to find. So for instance, I'm going to start in this area right around her ear right here, and you can see it opens up. There's a clear distinction between that and the rest of the image. That has been fully selected. As I start to work my way down to her forehead, it actually then finds the line that is the edge of her face. But if you continue and you cross that line, you select the entirety of the background. That defeats the whole purpose. Again, this tool cannot, just like in Photoshop, it cannot touch the edge you want it to find. So I'm going to hit Command-Z to undo that. It only goes back one step, and I'm just going to work my way around this. Stay away from anything that is not a solid edge. And this is the original selection that I get. And it happens quick. Has everybody got this? All right. To see what this looks like on a different background, you can come down and say, well, show me, I want to see what this looks like on black. And it'll show you that's what it looks like on black. Now, the reason this is not black is because I do not have this transparency cranked all the way up. So again, this is giving me the combination of this result. If I come down to black and white, this will show me the mask that it's going to build. And again, this is not the mask you want to build. This is horrible. Look at that. I mean, it's pretty good around her face. It really gets the eyelashes pretty well, but it's horrible on the rest of the image. Now, the problem is that we can't see what the rest of the image is. I don't know what the problem is up here. I know that this looks horrible, but I don't know what it is. That's the reason for the onion skin. If you go back to the onion skin, you can see there's areas of hair that never were selected, and there's areas of background that have also been selected. So to fix that, you go to the next tool down. This is the Refine Edge tool. If you click on that and bring it over, it is also a brush. But the trick to using this brush is this. You don't want, this brush will fix these areas where you're getting both background and subject together, but it's horrible. If you run this like over the front of her face, it will eat her face away. So you don't ever want to use this tool where it doesn't need to be used. So watch me when I do this. I'm going to run this tool along the line. You can see the area down in here where the hair is solidly selected. You cannot run the brush like this. It will eat that hair apart. You put the very edge of the brush touching the very edge of the area that you need it to find, and you click and you run across like this. I'm going to continue to run across all her hair because you see it's picking up all the hair that was missed. It's in the middle of her head. I'm going to continue to run it all the way down like this. I'm going to come all the way down the back like this to continue this part, working my way all the way down. Again, not touching anything that it shouldn't be touching. Now at this stage of the game, I've got a lot of area up in here that needs to be cleaned out. I've got more hair up here that needs to be fixed, and more hair over here where the background needs to be taken out, and some missing hair down in there. Now when we click on the drop-down view and look at our mask, you can see this is what you do want in a layer mask. Does this make sense? All right. Then finally, in the drop-down menu right here, the panels that are over in here, we've got refinements, all of this in here. You don't want to use any of these refinements on this. There are much better ways to do this manually and that have more control in this, so you can ignore that in its entirety. Then the output down here, most people would do this to a layer mask. That is a good option. If you do new layer, what it'll do is it'll put a mask on your layer and then it will apply it, which is destructive. And you guys have already pledged to me that you will never do that. So don't let Photoshop do it automatically for you. New layer with a layer mask would also be an option. And then finally, new document, again, destructive move. It will create a layer mask, apply it, and then make a copy of this document with it in it. And then finally, a new document with layer mask. We'll do the same thing except keep it intact. In our case right now, I'm going to do this a new layer with a layer mask because we're going to do this a second way again, just so that you can see what one last option is in here. So I'm going to do this new layer with layer mask, and I'm going to click OK. And this is my composite. And you can see it doesn't look too bad. There's some jankiness that's happening in these edges right in here. This doesn't look really great that's happening in here. There's a problem with the tonal mapping in here. We will look at other ways to fix this better later on. But I'm going to redo this just to show you another feature. I'm going to turn off the layer that we just did. I'm going to turn on the original. Again, we said we want you to make a second layer with a mask. The mask, it's not destructive. If you hold down the Shift key and you click on it, you can see it's still there. It's completely intact, so we didn't do any damage. Click on that again, turn it off, turn this one on, select the original layer, and we're going to go right back into Select and Mask again. So up to the Select and Mask. We'll get the same thing going. This time you guys can just do it really quickly. Select the top tool, click and drag through the whole thing. We've got that part. Select the Refine Edge tool, run it all along the edge of her, and then fix the top and the top. So we're back to basically where we were before. But now you're going to add one last thing, and it's this decontaminate colors. If you click on that, and again, you can do this repeatedly over and over and over. When you click on this, you actually should get a preview of it up here, and you can see it looks much better. If you zoom into this area up in here, it's blocking up some of this color, so you may want to pull this percentage off in terms of how aggressive it is, but it's not going to help me that much. But it still looks better here, even at 50%, 60%. Go ahead and say OK to that. This is my composite now with the decontaminate colors. and this is what it looks like without. And you can see all that ghosted out hair. It fills in considerably better, but look at what you just did to this image. Double click the hand, turn off the top layer, hold down your shift key and click on this. That's what decontaminate colors does. I call that destructive, wouldn't you? You cannot recover from that. Now, it's doing a good job. Again, I used it as making a second layer, but if this was the only version of this image that I had and I'd saved that and I needed to do something else with this, that's just destroyed. I can't recover from that. So decontaminate colors in here can work, not necessarily the best way to do it. We work better ways of doing it. Okay, questions about this? All right, the moment you've all been waiting for. The final moment, the push to the end. Back in your session number 3, there's also a folder called Hair Fantasia. I need everybody to open this up into Photoshop. This is what you all signed up for. So, what's the best way to select this? Again, you've got all the tools now. Select subject, you've got remove background, you've got all of those kind of things. We didn't go over remove background, but it's another one of the auto tools right here. When you get into, if we click on the object selection tool again, you'll see that somewhere in here, let's see this in here. We don't have a remove background tool in here. It maybe only shows up in the AI group, the contextual AI menu. So we will get to that when we really get to AI. But it's still not going to be the choice that I would actually suggest for you guys. Okay, so do we already have a mask in here? So I've got one no, I've got another no, I've got a bunch of no's. Anybody, any yeses here? Yes. Callie, where? No, I'm looking for a mask. I'm looking for something that Photoshop's already done all the lifting for me. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Isn't that a mask? It's the red channel mask. Can I start with this? This is a whole lot better than trying to make a selection of this using the quick selection tool, right? I got another one right here. It's called the green channel. I have another one right here. It's called the blue channel. I'm going to start with one of these. They're halfway there, if not 3/4 of the way there. So, which one do we pick? Well, ask yourself this. What's the most challenging selection in here? The hair or the skin? Hair, absolutely, right? The skin, I can damn near do the skin using the lasso tool, right? I mean, I'm not going to suggest that. We get into the pen tool next week, which is how I would suggest it, but that's next week. That's not this week. So anyway, we're going to look at different strategies for this. But the hair is definitely the hardest part of this, right? So what you're looking for, so go ahead and click on your red channel. Again, if you click on the thumbnail, it will not select it. You need to click on the area that's, so again, select on the composite. Click on the area that's just down here. It's sort of in the middle, right between the keyboard shortcut and the name. What you're looking for in here is what you hopefully get in the very end. In the ideal perfect world here, what I would have to separate, because I want to separate the girl from the background. I want to change the background. So to separate them, in an ideal world, the figure would be completely black and the background would be completely white, right? Now, we say completely. There's a caveat in that we're going to look at in just a second. But what I'm trying to illustrate here is that what I really want here is the maximum amount of contrast. I want to start with the contrastiest mask that I've already got, because that only gets me closer to where I'm trying to go. So if I look at the hair, don't look at the figure. Look at the hair here. If I click on the green channel, you can see that the hair actually lightens up. That's moving in the wrong direction. I want the hair darker. It didn't change the background at all. I want the hair darker. I just made it lighter. Now I made her skin darker, which is another issue. That's actually could help me, but that's not what I'm going for. My challenge is the hair. We already said that. If I go to the blue, it actually makes the skin considerably darker, which helps me. But look at the hair. It's made it as light as anything that can be in here. So if I really want to start with the best move in here, it's going to be the red channel. So go ahead and click on the red channel. We're not going to modify this red channel. We're going to make a copy of it. So click on, please do this with me because this gets tricky. And I need you to understand all the steps because this going forward, so many of the knockouts that you do. I call these knockouts, when I say the word knockout, it's an old film term. It refers to actually doing plates that would separate figures to allow hand-painted backgrounds and that kind of, anyway, old term, but nonetheless still current today. So I'm gonna actually knock this thing out. I wanna separate the girl from the background. So to do that, we're just gonna make a copy of the red channel. So click on the red channel. It's the only one selected, and simply pull it down and put it right on top of the box at the bottom that's got the little plus in the middle. It'll make a copy of it, just like it makes copies of layers, that same symbol on the layers palette. So, and it's called red copy, and I'm gonna double click on red copy, and I'm just gonna rename it knockout. Then reset your workspace. If you saved your workspace, just reset it. Oh, so you just scroll. You should have a scroll bar in here, but you need to reset your whole space. So come up right to the word Adobe and double click really fast. That'll help. Yours are all full of color. So that's okay. Come up to the window menu, come down to your workspace, come down to your retouching workspace, click on it, and then go right back to the same place, window, workspace, and reset it. Right there. Boom. And you are good to go. Double click. I know, right? Yeah. Yeah, to make a copy. You're good. Okay. So I need everybody to zoom in to, if you think of her head as a clock, I need you to come in around 3 o'clock. So again, the keyboard shortcut to zoom, no matter what tool you have selected, if you hold down the space bar, you get the hand. If you add the command key or the control key on Windows, you get the positive magnifying glass. If you add the option key on Mac or the alt key, so all three of them on Windows, you get the negative one. And it allows you to just zoom in and zoom out really quickly. But what I want to do is I want to zoom into this area right here. It's sort of like, again, the curls right around 3 o'clock in her head. So when I'm looking at this part in here, what I'm looking for is I'm trying to decide what do I need in this image to be truly completely black and what shouldn't be completely black. And what I mean by that is that if you look at this area of her hair, so look at my screen right here, it doesn't necessarily have to be where yours is, but this area right in here, not this part that's up here, but this area that's right in here, you can see there's a shine on this girl's hair that's actually causing it to be lighter than the areas that are right next to it. I need those to go black. That is solid hair there. But look at this area that's right down in here. There's really fine feathery hair in here, and certainly the areas that are out in here. If you take a look at like this area that's right in here, all of this stuff in here, this area right in here, all of these hairs are extremely light in this. But they're also, the thing you need to know about hair is actually partially transparent. So you guys instinctively know this. If you put a hair light on someone, you get this glow. The reason you're getting that glow is that the edges of that hair and part of the hair itself have a small amount of transparency to it, and the light actually passes through that and you see it. So I cannot pick these areas. I need those areas to still be slightly transparent. So they cannot be black. If I take them to black, you will end up with a mask that is way too aggressive. You'll see what I mean in just a minute. I'm going to show you this. So what we're going to do is we are going to try to figure out the areas of her hair that truly need to be black without making the areas that still need to have some positive tone of gray. Remember, in your layer masks, as we start to leave black, because black hides everything, if we start to move up to white, you start to get a mix. You're starting to let some of that. So we're creating transparency by not allowing those edges that should have some transparency in them to go completely black. So that's the goal in this. So the trick to doing what I'm going to show you right now is picking your points. And so this is where I'm going to go. There's a curl right down here in the very bottom. Hopefully you can find the same one. It's really dark here in the middle, and then I've got shine on it right here. And then as I start to get out to these edges, it starts getting really feathery. I'm gonna avoid that. But this shiny area that's right in here, I wanna put a color sampler point on that to find out what the real color of that is, but also then to modify it. So I'm going to come up to my tool palette, and I'm going to actually click on the eyedropper tool. Again, you don't want to select just the eyedropper tool. You want to click on the little arrow that's on the lower right-hand side. Click on it. You'll get a flyout menu. You're going to use the color sampler tool. What the color sampler tool does is it will drop points all over you. You can do multiple ones of them. We're going to put 2 of them out on our image to give us readouts so that we can then control how we get this stuff to go to either black or white. So I'm going to pick that tool, the color sampler tool. And then the trick to this is this area right in here that's really black. If I put my sample point there and make it 0, I take it to black, this area that's lighter than that will not get to black. It will still have some tone in it. But if I use this area right in here that's a little bit lighter and I get it to go to black, the area that's already black will already be black. So I'm going to put a point right here in the middle of this. And you can see if you just click on that, you will get this point, color point that sticks there. It's got a number on it, and you also have a readout in your info palette now that's a number 1. This is giving me a corresponding readout to this point right down here. You want to make sure that in your sample size, and the first time you set this, it'll set it for all of your sampler tools, which you want. Most of yours is probably at the default, which is point sample. You want to click on this point sample and come down to a 3x3. So then I want to set another point on my background. So I'm going to just put this, grab the space bar. It'll give me the hand. I'm going to scooch it out a little bit. And you just want to make sure that you put something out on the background. You want to stay pretty far away from the hair. You don't want to hit something that's close in here that might have hair in it. So I'm just going to set a point out here, and that's my point number 2. Now you can see I've got 2 readouts in my info palette, but they're in K. And the reason that they are in K is that every single mask that exists in the world is actually grayscale only. You cannot have color in a mask. So K is actually the CMYK. It's the K of CMYK. It's black ink. The reason it is in percentages is it's how much percent are you covering with black. And so in our case, 84, if it was 100%, it would be completely black. If it was 0%, it would be completely white. So what we've got here is an 84%. It's close to a black. It's not there. We've got, for my white background, we've got a 3%. It's close to 0. It's not quite there. But nobody works in CMYK like this. There's magic guru people who do this kind of work at separation houses. But we work in RGB. So I want to stay in RGB. We can do that. If you hover over the number of the eyedropper, so I'm hovering over number 1 in my info palette, click on the eyedropper, you will get a drop-down menu. And instead of giving me the actual color, which is K of CMYK, what I'm going to do is say, show this me in RGB. And it will. And you can see mine is 41, 41, 41. Yours should be close. It may not be exact, but it should be close. I'm going to do the same thing for my readout of the background. I'm going to click on the eyedropper of number 2, come down and say RGB readout, and you can see I'm at 248, 248, 248. So I want to then make the hair black and the background white. They're close, but they're not there. How do I do that? Didn't quite hear that one. So what I'm looking for is black in RGB is what value in RGB? 0. What's white? 255. That's what I'm looking for. How can I do that? How do I shift tone in Photoshop? Yes, it is slider things. You're absolutely right. It's levels. Levels is what we're going to use. You could use curves on this too. But again, that's how you remap tone. Guys, come on. This is Photoshop 101. Yeah, I'm going to actually run levels on this channel. So, but you bring up a really good point. This is not an adjustment layer. You do not do levels over here as an adjustment layer. We are going to do the destructive version of levels on this channel. So to do that, you come up to the image menu, down to adjustments, down to levels. This is now running levels. Again, this is not an adjustment layer. This does not work with adjustment layers. That works on levels, on layers. We are working on this channel. So you bring up this dialog box, and it actually, when you bring this thing up, you can then grab the black point slider and move it up, which will change the blacks. You can grab the white point slider and pull it back, which will change the whites. It's exactly what we want to do. But now we do it controlled. The reason I put these color sampler points down is that people try to do this stuff by eye, and they inevitably fuck it up. They overshoot it or they undershoot it. We want to hit it perfect. And so you can do that by the numbers. When you brought this thing up, all of a sudden our readouts got a second set of numbers. You'll see it's not just 41s anymore. There's a forward slash and then another a set of 41s. And the same thing happened in my the readouts for my white point, or the background point on that. I've got a set of color point of befores and afters here. Yeah, Callie. Yes, it could be because you don't have your bottom channel that we're working on selected. I mean, not selected, active. Yeah, so everything's fine. Who knows? Okay, does everybody understand this double point thing here? So right now I've gotten rid of my levels adjustment. I've only got the points. So, but when you bring up something to change that, like a curve or levels, so again, Command L is the keyboard shortcut for this, you get a before and after. So the values that are on the left-hand side are the original values and they don't change. The values on the right-hand side will change when we actually do something in this levels dialog box. The reason they're the same right now is we haven't done anything. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab the black point slider and you're going to be looking at this number 1. Don't bother looking at your image. You want to just look at the numbers. And you're going to click and drag towards the center and you're going to head towards 0. But stop before you get there. So I'm like at a 3 now. Once you get to a 3, you want to go to your up and down arrow keys and you want to tap this in till you just get it to 0. You don't want to do any more, but so again, this is the absolute minimum I needed to get to 0. If you just whack that slider over, you can do this. So watch my screen here. I'm going to zip out so you can actually see this image. This is what we mean by too aggressive. If you continue to go over, you will still have 0, but then you do that, and that is not the selection you want. That's the selection all of you have been using up until this point. So again, I'm going to undo that. Grab this point and pull it over until you just get to 0. So I'm going to back it off just a little bit to get a positive value. Again, go to my arrow keys. I just hit 0. I'm done on this one. But look at the value I've got in here. It says 47. You would think you would put in 41. Photoshop doesn't work that way. Don't ask me why. I'm going to grab the white point slider and do the same thing. I'm looking at these numbers right over here, these 47s, and I'm going to click and pull this white point towards the center until I get close to 255. Stop, go to your arrow keys, and tap this in just till you get there. And then finally, you need to revisit the black point, the shadow point on this, because sometimes when you change the highlight, it will actually change the shadow point as well. So you may have to go through a couple of iterations. Just look back and forth to make sure that you've done the absolute minimum to get a white background and then an absolute minimum to get a black hair in here. And so this is what my image is looking like. Before you say okay to that, use your preview check mark on and off to see what it is you actually did. Now I can see I've got still some problems in the hair in here and it's shine on her hair. That's okay, I'm gonna fix those things later. But this is basically where my starting point is in this guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and say okay to this. Again, I'm hoping that this is not too aggressive. I'm gonna double click on my hand. This would now be a good time to go to a tablet as well because the rest of the work we're going to do with this will largely be brush work. Okay, so the hair part is looking pretty good. When I zoom in here, I'm looking at the edges here, but I do have some stuff in here that I can see is actually problematic for me. It's the shine of her hair. I want to go ahead and clean all of that up. You want to stay away from these edges. All the work that we did was to build these edges. You want to stay away, but in the body of the hair, I need to clean this kind of stuff up. The problem I have right now is I want to make sure that this is not background, because if this is background showing through, you want to keep that. So to see what it is, go back up to the very top, click on your, again, don't click on the RGB thumbnail, click on the RGB channel itself, and you can see that little areas in here, these are shine on her hair. This is not background coming through, but this is definitely background coming through here. It's background coming through here. This is all shine that's down in this area right in here. So now I have a good idea of what I should be hitting and what I shouldn't be hitting. So I'm gonna go down, and again, do not click on the thumbnail of your knockout channel, click on the channel itself. Hit the B key to get a brush. You're going to set the brush options this way. Click on the drop-down menu here. You definitely want 100% hard brush. We don't use soft brushes when we do this work because soft brushes can actually spray out. As I go to remove the shine on this hair, I want only to be touching that shine. I don't want any spray that's coming from a soft brush to hit out onto my background. It'll ruin the whole thing that I'm doing. However, the problem I have with this is that I want everybody to hit the X key and give themselves a white color for their brush. And then I want you to come over here on the black part of her hair, and I want you to just paint. And you can see that using a normal blending mode for your brush does not restrict this at all. You can take black and make it white. You can take white and make it black. You can destroy this image. That's not what I want to do. Command Z to undo that. Instead, and this is the great trick, you are going to change the blending mode of your brush from normal down to overlay. And now do the same move, white brush on black hair, and you see nothing happens. What an overlay brush does is it looks for 50% gray, and it will allow you to push anything that's lighter than 50% gray lighter, and anything that's darker than 50% gray darker, but it will protect the inverse of that. This is a contrast brush. So I am going to hit the X key to get black, and you can see I'm going to come up to all of these areas where I've got shine in here, and I'm just going to paint them out. I'm staying away from the the edges that are out on the outside of my image. Stay away from the things that you know should be see-through, like this part up in here. This is background, but this is shine underneath it. That shine underneath it. That shine, that shine, that shine. This is shine in here, and that is it. That's shine also right there. I'm pretty sure that's background. So you can do the same thing on this. Remember I talked about, oh yeah, well you just use your brush to go ahead and paint the line along here. I need her figure, all of it. I need her face to be black. I need her body to be black. I need all of that. So again, using your overlay brush, it will help you find this edge. Now don't make the brush work too hard. I'm gonna make my brush a little bit larger, but watch my screen, watch what happens right here. I'm gonna click and I'm gonna try to stay kind of along that line, but you can see my brush is actually going over that line. It's actually hitting the background. I'm picking up a little tone in my background. That's okay. I'm going to clean that out in just a second. I want to zoom all the way down to the bottom so that I get all this down here. So that was the first pass with my brush, but this is a cumulative thing, and the darker the background is, the more cumulative this will happen. So hit this a second time. And again, I am getting some spill, or I'm causing some spill onto the background here. Don't worry about that. We're going to fix that in a second. And I'm probably going to hit this a third time just to make sure that I've got this really dark line here. Now, the part that actually hit the background up here, I can clean that up. Hit your X key to paint with white and go over the brush part that's up here at the top. And you can clean all of that up. And now I've got a reasonably good edge. Again, this is not the best way in the world to do this, but until we can get to the next couple of weeks, this is how we're going to do it. Now you'll also see that I've got some lighter, I've got some tone in the background. If you hover over your brush, just hover over this area, you can see my readout in my info palette is giving me stuff in the 20s, the 30s in here. This is never going to be perfect, but this can be much better. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brush completely soft. I'm still going to stay with an overlay brush, but now I'm going to make my brush a little bit larger here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get close to the hair. Again, look up at my screen right here. What I'm going to do is I've got a soft edge here. So as my brush goes from the center, which will be completely white, out to the center, it fades off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click and drag away from these fine hairs to try to get a little bit better background in here, but again, not perfect. I don't want to damage the hair too much. So I'm just clicking and pulling down like this. And I'm doing the same thing over here. If I lose a little bit of hair, that's okay. I can live with losing a little bit of hair, but I'm gonna leave it like that. It's not gonna be a perfect black background. It's not a white background. It's not gonna be perfect black hair. Nobody will notice the difference. I'm gonna go back to a completely hard brush to get her neck. Again, I'm gonna zoom into this area right here. Do the dark stuff first. So make it the black key like here. The black paintbrush. And I'm gonna knock that part out in there like that. That part's good. X key to go and pull out the white of that part right there. And this is basically how I'm gonna do this part. Now on the edge that you can never do this on, again, the edge of her cheek on this, you will never get this edge here. So to do this, you wanna go back to a normal brush. You're gonna go to a completely hard brush. Mine is. And then you don't want to click and draw down. You don't want to drag and paint this. You want to do, this is the trick that you do. You do dots. So I'm just going to do a dot, sorry. Make sure that black is your foreground color. A dot, a dot, a dot, a dot, a dot, a dot, 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 dot. And then I'm going to go back to an overlay brush on the rest of it. I'm going to clean up that part right there. That part's good. Back to an overlay brush. Black is my foreground color. Make it a completely hard brush. Mine is. I'm just going to do this shoulder. And then the X key to clean up that background edge in there. Try to avoid the straps. I am going to go back to the X key to try and hit the straps a little harder because they should be black as well because they're part of my subject. Soft overlay brush, a completely soft brush now to again do that same feathery thing next to her hair that we did before. So bigger brush. I'm just gonna, X key with white. I'm just going to click and draw away from this. Again, if you lose a few little hairs in there, it's not going to be the end of the world. And then a hard brush. And clean out the rest of this part that's right next to her. And we're almost done.
I have a question.
Shoot.
You said the overlay brush gives you something with neutral gray but less.
So what it does is that with a neutral brush, if it's overlay brush, if it's set to white, you cannot paint on black, no matter how hard you try. If you set it to black, you can't paint on white. White will not go on black. So again, they're protecting each other. As you start to get closer to middle gray, that protection begins to break down. But you can see the way I've gone after both of these edges, I'm getting both. I can do a dark edge. It spills a little bit into the background, but then I can go back and hit the background with white. And it still respects that line pretty good. And you'll see when we do the knockout, it'll be pretty good. And then finally, the rest of this, go back to a normal brush. Make sure it's a completely hard brush. Mine is. And then you just paint between the lines. Oops, sorry. X key to paint black. Just paint out the rest of this. Do not hit the edges. Stay away from the edges. You've done all of this work to get them, but you can paint over all her eyes. A lot of times when I'm doing this painting, lift your brush up off of the tablet. So right here, I just made that mistake. I started to do her eyes, and I got them. But then I came down, I'm in a rush, and I hit her cheek right here, and I went out onto the background. So when you do Command Z to undo that, it doesn't undo everything that you've actually done. So then you take your time and build this up a little bit more. And then finally, if you zoom back out, I've got a pretty good edge. I'm gonna hit this edge just a touch right there. I'm gonna zoom out a little bit more. You can now actually hit the rest of this with the lasso tool. So hit the lasso tool to get the L key, or the L key to get the lasso tool. You can just draw a line inside this black area that we've already got, come around to the other side and come back up into this like this and complete your selection. And to fill with your foreground color, you use Option Delete on Windows. That would be Alt Backspace. To do your background color, to fill with background color, you do Command Delete. So Option Delete, Command D to deselect. This is now my knockout. This is my mask. Yes?
So on our brush, it's not turning black. It's like
You have to repeatedly do it then. If it's only making it darker, hit it again. If it's not black yet, hit it again. Hit it again. Eventually it will get to black. The darker the area you work on, the more effective the overlay brush is. Or the lighter, the more effective it is.
How do you select that again?
How do I select what?
Area
Oh, just the lasso tool.
right, and then to make it black.
Oh, so again, your keyboard shortcut. You can come up to the edit menu and do fill, come down to fill and do black, but the keyboard shortcut for it is Option Delete will fill it with foreground color, Command Delete background color. And it's whatever they are. So again, are we good on this part? All right, guys, we got 3 minutes to see how well this worked. Are we ready? Okay. So I'm going to come back over to my image here. I'm just clicking back over in the layer part. This thing is done. I'm going to come over to my layer part, and I want to add a different color layer between the figure and the background. So just to do, you can't see it right now because I haven't put this layer mask on. But I just want you to add one with me. So I'm going to click on the background layer. We're going to add a solid color adjustment layer. So click on solid color, and I'm going to make it like cyanic. So I'm going to click on cyan, near the cyan. If you want to type in the exact value for cyan, you would click on the red and type in 0, tab key 255 green, tab key 255 blue. Sorry. That's a true cyan. And go ahead and say OK to that. It just gives me a solid color of cyan on the bottom. Make sense? Come back over to your channels palette. Do not select the knockout now. You hover over the icon, over the thumbnail, hold down your Command key and click. It loads this as a selection. Come over to your figure and apply it as a layer mask. And boom, there you go. You call this art. You make a really big print of it. No, this isn't at all what we hoped it was for. Why? What's wrong?
How do you apply it as a layer?
So again, did you have a selection going?
Yeah.
Just click on Add Layer Mask. The square at the bottom with a dark circle in the middle. So, how do I fix this? What's wrong?
Invert.
The mask is inverted, right? So simply click on the invert. Look at this fucking comp. Zoom into this. You want to talk about, okay, you're at an audition for a retouching review and you want $50, $100 an hour, and you fucking do this? Folks, this just took you out of the minimum wage retouching level, and this put you in the hardcore journeyman level of retouchers. You may not be masters yet, but game changer. Look at this. I mean, this is sick. Look at how all of that beautiful part comes through in here. There's none of this. We will try this next week. We will try. Well, here we can try it really quick right now. Let's just see. We're gonna see the difference. You don't need to do this. Just watch my screen really quickly. And if you've got to go, well, we got 1 minute left. You can't leave. Okay, no, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna jump this to its own layer. I'm gonna throw away this layer mask. I'm just gonna delete it. And then really quickly, I'm just gonna do a select subject and see how it does. So select subject and apply this as a layer mask. And so this one, I'm going to do this using history snapshots. It's easier. Right now, I'm going to turn off the one that was the first one that I did. I'm going to click on the, I have no idea if this is going to work. This may blow up in my face right now. I just want you guys to know, I tightrope walk without a net. And we'll see. So anyway, I'm going to click on a history snapshot, and this was AI. And then I'm going to turn it off and turn the one I did on and do another snapshot and call this VE. And then we're going to zoom in and take a look at the difference. So if we come up to the top, the reason you do this is that it's really hard to turn something off and on at the same time. History allows you to do that. This is the AI version of it. This is the VE version of it. AI version of it, VE version of it. It's close, but I think mine's better. The AI version, let's go over into a different range in here. AI version, VE version. Oh yeah, look at the fine hairs that are up in here. AI version, missing them. VE, look at this right in here. AI version, weak. VE version, strong. That's how you do it. I know, right. Questions? Okay, so really quick, go ahead.
How did you make the selection last video?
I just did select subject. So really quick, just so that you know, in your homework assignment, just to make sure this is the file you're going to work on. You are going to make 4 layers of this file, and you're going to use masks to isolate the sweater, the blue background, her hair, and her skin. 4 separate layers, masked out to show only those 4 different, the assignment reads that way. I just want to make sure you know. Also, when you do the skin one, you go ahead and include the eyebrows and her eyes and her teeth and her mouth and all can all be part of the skin layer. You don't have to separate that part out. So again, the hair is separated, the blue background is separated, the sweater is separated, and the skin is separated. And that's the assignment. And you've got all these tools. There's no one tool that's going to do all of this. I'll see you guys next week.